My wife is a beautiful CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 776. Two beauties compete. Don't worry, I'll go back to Cheng's villa soon. I'll tell you everything after I get back, Su Chen said, and then hung up the phone. Zhang Taiyan asked, Uncle Master, what's wrong? Su Chen waved his hand. Nothing. Just some sewer rats. It looks like they're about to show up. Zhang Taiyan was stunned and didn't say anything. He didn't take it seriously. After all, with Su Chen's current strength, there really aren't many things that can stump him. The crowd walked to the foot of the mountain and met many villagers. The changes in Changyang Mountain were shocking. These villagers have lived here for a long time, so they are naturally more concerned. And they also saw the changes in Changyang Mountain. As for the villagers' gossip, the crowd just dealt with it casually and left directly. After going down the mountain, the group took a car back to the provincial capital and then went their separate ways. The members of the Tiger Guard naturally returned to the Tiger Guard base. And Su Chen, Zhang Taiyan and others naturally returned to Cheng's villa again. At this time, in Cheng's villa, Zhou Wanqiu was very upset. Although, a few days ago, the project of Quinning Entertainment City was snatched away. But Zhou Wanqiu still firmly chose to continue to develop in the provincial capital. So, in the past few days, she contacted the headquarters of Zhao's catering group in Bincheng, allocated funds and some employees, and set up the office building and employee framework of the new company in the provincial capital. Although the new company is still very simple and not many new employees are recruited, it has finally started to develop in the provincial capital. However, the subsequent development caught her off guard. Many departments suddenly came to the door one after another. These staff members directly determined that Zhao's catering group was suspected of multiple illegal and criminal acts and held Zhou Wanqiu and Zhao's catering group accountable in various ways, ordering them to close. Even the Bincheng headquarters was implicated. For a time, the new company was in panic. If the new company is really closed, the previous investment will really go down the drain. As the president of Zhao's group, Zhou Wanqiu felt that she had a great responsibility. Until now, she didn't even know who her opponent was. She wanted to go to the company to take charge. As a result, Zhang Longhu said that Su Chen would be back soon and asked her to wait in Cheng's villa. Zhou Wanqiu was anxious. She looked at Zhang Longhu and asked anxiously, Senior Zhang, has Su Chen not come back yet? I still have a lot of things to do in the company. Zhang Longhu smiled bitterly. Boss Zhao, Mr. Su told me that he will be back soon. You should wait for him. Now, things in the company seem to be a little wrong. We don't know who our opponent is now, so it's safer to wait for Mr. Su to come. Zhou Wanqiu sat down helplessly. She said with some disdain, Humph. Su Chen just likes to brag. Will the earth still turn without him? Zhou Wanqiu was just talking about this. The things between them also made her gain experience, and she would not mess around. Zhang Longhu smiled and said nothing. Suddenly, Zhang Longhu looked up and looked outside the door. He had already sensed Su Chen's breath. Boss Zhao, Mr. Su is here. Zhou Wanqiu showed a hint of joy on her face, and then it flashed away. Okay, I'll go find him. As she spoke, she stood up. On the other side, Su Chen walked into the Cheng family villa. Before he could find Zhou Wanqiu, he was stopped by Cheng Yuheng. Chen, you are so bad. You said you would take me to eat delicious food, but I waited for you for 3 days and you didn't come back. Humph. Cheng Yuheng pouted and stuck to him. The aggrieved expression made Su Chen's heart soften. He comforted softly. Let's go tonight, okay? No, I don't believe you anymore. Cheng Yuheng shook Su Chen's arm and acted coquettishly. You big liar, you are so bad. Su Chen looked helpless. At this moment, a sour voice sounded. Oh, I was wondering why the secretary hadn't been seen for a few days. It turned out that she was hiding here. Aren't you afraid that the company will go bankrupt and you will lose your job? Zhou Wanqiu walked over slowly with a frosty face. She just came to find Su Chen with joy, but she saw him and Chen Yuheng being close here. Zhou Wanqiu's mood suddenly became bad. So, she made a sarcastic remark. Chen, she's a bad boy. Let's stay away from her. Chen Yuheng hid behind Su Chen and even pulled Su Chen back slightly. Yeah, I'm bad. Unlike some women who act cute and act like a spoiled child. Zhou Wanqiu said sourly. Ahem. Su Chen coughed dryly. He pulled out his hand silently and then said softly to Chen Yuheng, be good. Brother will play with you later, okay? No. Chen Yuheng pouted and said, you said you would take me to eat delicious food. What if you run away again? I won't let you go. Then, you sit aside obediently and I will talk to your sister. Is that okay? Su Chen was like a weird uncle who took a little girl to see goldfish. Then, okay, but only for a while. Chen Yuheng rubbed his eyelids. Otherwise, I will cry. Okay, just for a while. Su Chen nodded. Then, he turned to look at Zhou Wanqiu. Boss Zhou, she is just a child. Don't bother with her. HMPH. Zhou Wanqiu snorted coldly. She could naturally see that Chen Yuheng was not in a good state. However, seeing Su Chen so close to such a beautiful woman, Zhou Wanqiu was upset. Tell me, this time, you disappeared for so long. What did you do again? You didn't go to save people again. Do you think you are Ultraman? Zhou Wanqiu said unhappily. Ahem, that. Su Chen touched his nose. Boss Zhou, I really went out to save people this time. Zhou Wanqiu stared at Su Chen, who did not change his expression. HMPH. I'll spare you this time. She snorted coldly, her face frosty. However, a slight smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Boss Zhou, let's talk about business. What is the company like now? Have you found out who is targeting us? Su Chen asked to change the subject. You know the company. Zhou Wanqiu glared at Su Chen. After failing to win the bid for Quenying Entertainment City last time, I still insisted on starting the new provincial capital company of Zhao's catering group. However, the process was not smooth, and we suffered setbacks one after another. This is very abnormal. Su Chen asked in a deep voice. Who did it? The third update. It's still too late. Sorry. There won't be much to do tomorrow, so I should be able to update for more. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 777. Direct confrontation. Is it the Dan group? Su Chen looked at Zhou Wanqiu and asked. Zhou Wanqiu nodded slightly and said, the Dan group is indeed involved. Su Chen's face was slightly cold. He snorted coldly, they are courting their own death. Last time, when fighting Huang Sanson, Jin Dangle of the Dan group pretended to tip off. Su Chen also owed Jin Dangle a favor. He thought that the Jin father and son had other plans. Now it seems that the two are still courting death. Seeing Su Chen's face, Zhou Wanqiu hurriedly said, Su Chen, listen to me. Su Chen was startled and looked at Zhou Wanqiu. Zhou Wanqiu explained, this time, although the Dan group also took action. However, it feels like they seem to be working without effort. Su Chen's face eased slightly. It seems that the Jin father and son do have other thoughts. Ding-ling-ling. Zhou Wanqiu's cell phone rang suddenly, interrupting their conversation. Su Chen could only temporarily suppress his curiosity and wait for Zhou Wanqiu to answer the phone before asking, what? After the call was connected, Zhou Wanqiu exclaimed, and her face instantly turned ugly. Even the joy of Su Chen's return disappeared instantly. Okay, I know, I'll go there right away. Zhou Wanqiu answered repeatedly on the phone, and it seemed that the situation was very critical. Boss Zhou, is there something wrong with the company? Su Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. He did not use his ability to listen to Zhou Wanqiu's call. However, he could also guess that it was almost right. Zhou Wanqiu nodded with a frosty face. Now, a law enforcement team has gone to the new company and accused the company of money laundering. They asked me to go there in person and cooperate with them to explain the problem. Otherwise all transactions of the company will be restricted. Zhou Wanqiu's face was full of worry. She knew the situation of the company better than anyone else. It was obviously a new company that had just been set up. How could it be involved in illegal crimes? Obviously, this was another enemy secretly attacking the Zhou catering group. We'll talk about it later. Now, I have to go back to the company and deal with those people. After saying this, Zhou Wanqiu walked out anxiously. I'll go with you. Su Chen hurriedly followed. He really wanted to see who was the one who resorted to such a despicable means. The crime of money laundering is not a trivial matter. If convicted, not only will the company suffer a heavy blow, but even Zhou Wanqiu may face jail time. It can be said that this trick is a bit too sinister. Soon, Su Chen and Zhou Wanqiu arrived at the new company of Zhao's catering group in the provincial capital. Mr. Zhao. Hello, Mr. Zhao. As Zhou Wanqiu stepped into the office area, greetings rang out. There were also many new employees whose eyes lingered on Su Chen for a while. They were just new employees of the new company and were not familiar with Su Chen. Therefore, they were all very curious about the strange man following Zhou Wanqiu. Zhou Wanqiu nodded casually and then walked quickly towards the office. The two had just entered the office. Then, a staff from the law enforcement department came over. Boss Zhao, we received a report. Zhao's catering group is involved in illegal activities such as money laundering. Please come with us. A middle-aged law enforcement officer with glasses spoke directly. As he spoke, the middle-aged man was about to pull Zhou Wanqiu's arm. At this time, Su Chen stepped forward and directly blocked between Zhou Wanqiu and the pockmarked face. The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment and then looked at Su Chen with a bad face. Money laundering? What a big hat. Su Chen said lightly, since you designated us to launder money, then may I ask, where is the evidence? The middle-aged man's face changed slightly. He looked at Su Chen coldly and asked, Sir, who are you? What's going on here has nothing to do with you. Su Chen sneered, I'm Boss Zhao's secretary. Since you want to take our Boss Zhao away, I will naturally take care of it. Again, where is your evidence? Our Boss Zhao is busy with all kinds of things. It is impossible for him to cooperate with you, just because of your so-called suspicion. The middle-aged man's face sank. He said, the evidence is being investigated, which is why we came to find Mr. Zhao. The middle-aged man stared at Su Chen. Haha. Su Chen sneered, since there is no evidence, what right do you have to take people away? Without any evidence, do you want to illegally detain people? The middle-aged man was impatient. Sir, please don't make a fuss. We came here to ask Mr. Zhao to cooperate with the investigation. If Mr. Zhao cooperates, perhaps we can quickly clear Mr. Zhao's name. Cooperate with the investigation? Su Chen curled his lips and sneered. What a good cooperation with the investigation. To cooperate with the investigation, do we have to take people away? We can cooperate with the investigation, but not with you. If you have any questions, just ask here. The middle-aged man's face changed, and he hurriedly said, no, we have regulations, we must. Before he could finish, Su Chen interrupted directly, go back and tell your master that I have a bad temper. Don't play such despicable tricks again. He had already seen that this middle-aged man was just a gun in the hands of others. What are you talking about? The middle-aged man was touched on the spot, and his face suddenly turned red. He pointed at Su Chen and said angrily, are you sure you want to obstruct public affairs and resist violently? Su Chen snorted coldly, get out. Otherwise, you may not be able to keep your clothes. The middle-aged man's face changed. First update. Chapter 778 I'll solve it. Su Chen stared at the middle-aged man with an indifferent expression. These minions were not worth his effort, because they were just the enemy's weapons. And no matter what, these people were still public officials. It was not appropriate for him to take action directly. The middle-aged man was stared at by Su Chen, and he was very angry. But Su Chen's words made him feel a little nervous. Okay. Boss Zhao, you violently resist the law, just wait for punishment. The middle-aged man looked at Zhou Wanqiu and said something harsh. Then, he hurriedly led his people away in disgrace. Su Chen, what are you doing? Seeing the law enforcement officers leave angrily, Zhou Wanqiu didn't know what to say for a while. Su Chen's approach really made her feel relieved. But in this way, the company might be even more difficult to move forward in Nangzhou, where they are unfamiliar with the place. After all, this is not Bincheng, and Zhao's catering group has just started here, and without a deep foundation, it is extremely difficult to develop. Now, with Su Chen's interference, the development of Zhao's group in Dongzhou may be even more difficult. Don't worry. This is not a big deal. Su Chen smiled faintly. Zhou Wanqiu's eyes widened, and she was very angry at Su Chen. Her chest rose and fell violently. We are all suspected of money laundering. This is not a big deal. You are going to piss me off to death. Su Chen smiled and said, Mr. Zhao, you should know very well whether we have done these illegal and criminal things. The group of people just now obviously came to deliberately cause trouble. If you really follow their wishes and cooperate, something will happen instead. You should know what happened these days. Zhou Wanqiu was speechless. This period of time can indeed be said to be difficult. However, Su Chen's handling method just now still made her a little uneasy. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Su Chen smiled confidently. I will find out who is doing this to us, and then solve the problem. Just you? Zhou Wanqiu pouted. She glared at Su Chen and said unhappily, I'm telling you, don't fight anymore. Otherwise, I'll have to go to the police station to get you out. Su Chen's mouth twitched slightly. It seemed that the image of himself in Zhou Wanqiu's mind had completely changed into a violent man who only knew how to fight. Just then, dong, dong, dong. The office door was knocked. Come in, Zhou Wanqiu said. The door opened. A woman in a hip skirt appeared at the door. Xiaomi, what's wrong? Zhou Wanqiu asked. This woman was Zhou Wanqiu's new assistant at the branch. Xiaomi looked flustered and panted. Boss Zhao, something bad has happened. Zhou Wanqiu frowned slightly, then said calmly, Xiaomi, don't worry, tell me slowly, if you have anything to say. At this moment, Zhou Wanqiu looked like a CEO, and was very calm. Boss Zhao, we just received a notice that the Economic Investigation and Law Enforcement Team of Dongzhou Province has filed a case, and will soon conduct an investigation on our company. Xiaomi said anxiously. Haha, you came quite quickly. Before Zhou Wanqiu opened her mouth, Su Chen could not help but snorted coldly. Boss Zhao, what should we do? Xiaomi looked anxious. Zhao's catering group was developing rapidly, and Zhou Wanqiu was a gentle and generous boss. She had finally found such a good job, and she didn't want to lose her job so soon. At this time, Su Chen waved his hand and said, it's okay. The company is operating normally. If they want to investigate, let them come. Don't worry, the company will not have any problems. Xiaomi looked at Su Chen with some surprise. She had not had much contact with Su Chen, and didn't quite understand why he dared to make decisions for Zhou Wanqiu. Xiaomi turned around and asked Zhou Wanqiu, Boss Zhao. Zhou Wanqiu also looked at Su Chen, only to see that Su Chen looked confident and calm. She gritted her teeth and said, listen to Su Chen first. The company is operating normally. If there is anything, just cooperate with the investigation. Zhou Wanqiu chose to believe Su Chen. Yes, Boss Zhao. Xiaomi nodded in response. Before leaving, she looked at Su Chen with curiosity, as if she was curious about why President Zhao listened to this man. However, Xiaomi's report was just the beginning. The bad news about the new Dongzhou company of Zhao's catering group came one after another. Zhou Wanqiu listened to the reports from his subordinates one by one, and his face became more and more gloomy. I'm going to the bathroom. Su Chen said this, and ran out to an empty corner. The enemy has already started to attack, and he must do something. In the corner, Su Chen dialed Fang Bingbang's phone. The call was quickly connected. Mr. Su. A majestic voice came from the other side, with a bit of joy in his tone. Since Su Chen helped to solve the assassination of the Siamese warrior last time, Fang Bingbang and Su Chen have become closer. Provincial Chief Fang, I wonder if you are free now. Su Chen spoke directly. Now, the situation of Zhao's group has reached the point where it must be resolved. Mr. Su, if you have anything to say, just tell me. Fang Bingbang smiled. Then, he joked. However, if it is something that violates organizational discipline, I will not help. Don't worry, Governor Fang. Su Chen smiled. Zhao's catering group is upright. It has grown to this point step by step, relying on integrity and legal operations. Now he came to Fang Bingbang, only because the other party took action from the official side first. Fang Bingbang smiled and said, Mr. Su, tell me. If there is anything you need me to do, I will try my best to help. But some decisions are not something I can decide alone. Su Chen smiled and said, don't worry, I won't make it difficult for you. Now, it seems that someone has taken action against Zhao's catering group. Moreover, they have used public power to frame them. I just need you to say hello to the law enforcement team and let them handle it legally and in compliance with regulations. Fang Bingbang was relieved when he heard this. He hurriedly said, this is easy. I will send a supervision team over right now. No matter what conspiracy the other party has, as long as the Zhao group has a clean foundation, no one can touch the Zhao catering group. Second update. Chapter 779. Conclusive evidence. Su Chen couldn't help but feel relieved when he heard what Fang Bingbang said. Official matters are not easy to handle. But with Fang Bingbang's supervision team here, everything will be much easier. Thank you, Governor Fang. Su Chen thanked him. Fang Bingbang smiled and said, Mr. Su, why are you being so polite to me? The two exchanged a few more pleasantries before hanging up the phone. Su Chen returned to the office with a relaxed smile. At this time, Zhou Wanqiu was still frowning. Now, Zhao's catering group has been subject to many unwarranted reports and accusations, and is very passive. And Zhao's catering group has no foundation in the provincial capital, and it is even difficult to find someone to inquire about it. Zhou Wanqiu saw Su Chen coming back with a smile on his face, and glanced at him unhappily. A lazy donkey will be more when it goes to the mill. There are so many problems in the company, and you still have the energy to stay in the bathroom for so long. Su Chen's mouth twitched. He picked up the teacup, took a sip of tea, and smiled and comforted. Don't worry, President Zhao, the company's problems will be solved soon. Zhou Wanqiu curled his lips. TSK, do you think you are the provincial governor? You can solve it, if you say it can be solved. Now, we don't even know who will take action. Su Chen smiled. Although he is not the provincial governor, it is the same if the provincial governor is willing to save his face. At this time, another knock on the door sounded. Xiaoma's figure appeared again. What's wrong? Is there another department that wants to trouble us? Zhou Wanqiu asked with a frown. No. Xiaoma waved her hands again and again, saying, President Zhao, this time it's good news. We just received a notice that, although a joint law enforcement team is coming to our company to investigate, there will be a supervision team to supervise them. I heard that it was arranged by the provincial governor himself. Xiaoma smiled happily. Oh. Zhou Wanqiu raised her eyebrows. She turned her head suddenly and looked at Su Chen. Just now, this guy swore that it would be solved soon. Could it be that it really has something to do with him? Zhou Wanqiu's heart was full of doubts. I just said that it will be solved soon. Su Chen said with a smile. Zhou Wanqiu stared at Su Chen and asked, did you solve it? Su Chen smiled and said, I said hello to Provincial Governor Fang, and he sent a supervision team over. In this way, no matter what tricks the other party has, we don't have to be afraid when we see that our background is clean. Before Su Chen finished speaking, Zhou Wanqiu interrupted directly. You really dare to claim this credit? Su Chen was stunned, and then smiled bitterly. It seems that in Zhou Wanqiu's eyes, he is still an unreliable guy. Su Chen smiled indifferently. If you think it's not me, then it's not me. Zhou Wanqiu rolled his eyes at Su Chen and said, you say that, as if you are very wronged. Last time at Quanying Entertainment City, when I was held hostage by Chen Zifeng, Provincial Governor Fang said in person that Zhao's catering group is a key support project of Dongzhou provincial capital. Provincial Governor Fang must have sent a supervision team for the economic recovery of Dongzhou province to prevent anyone from doing anything wrong. The more Zhou Wanqiu talked, the more he felt that this possibility was greater. At least, it was much more likely than what Su Chen said. Su Chen smiled and did not argue. Anyway, he didn't want Zhou Wanqiu to be grateful to him. Soon, Zhou Wanqiu received a call from his subordinates. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Wanqiu looked a little worried. Su Chen asked, what's wrong? Zhou Wanqiu said, the joint law enforcement team is here. However, the supervision team sent by Provincial Governor Fang is slower than them and has not arrived yet. I'm worried that there will be accidents. Su Chen said calmly, it's okay. I'm here. Let's go and take a look first. Zhou Wanqiu said to Su Chen, what's the use of you being here? But we do have to go and take a look first. As he spoke, Zhou Wanqiu stood up and walked outside. Su Chen smiled helplessly and followed him. Zhou Wanqiu, who was walking in front, had a smile on her face. It must be said that Su Chen's words "I'm here" really made her feel at ease. Office area. The staff of the joint law enforcement team have arrived. Faced with these people, the employees of the new company of Zhao's catering group in the provincial capital did not dare to stop them. They could only send people to follow them and cooperate with the investigation. Other employees were a little flustered. Xiaomi, our company is not going to fail, is it? The joint law enforcement team, this scene is a bit scary. Don't worry. The higher-ups have sent a supervision team to supervise these people. Our company is upright and will be fine. That's good. The job benefits at Zhao's catering group are so good. I don't want to change jobs. Who wouldn't? I hope these plague gods will leave soon. The new employees in the office talked a lot, and their sense of belonging to Zhao's catering group was much stronger. The staff of the joint law enforcement team dispersed to various departments to conduct targeted inspections. The finance office is the top priority. Soon, a staff member walked out of the finance office. He had a cold smile on his face and a ledger in his hand. Captain Yan, we have something. Captain Yan looked at the staff member and asked, Wu Zifu, what did you get? Wu Zifu said, Captain Yan, we found an account book in the finance office. There are some records on it that can prove that Zhao's catering group has committed bribery, money laundering, tax evasion and other illegal and criminal acts. Captain Yan quickly took the account book and flipped through it. The more he read, the more frightened he became. Finally, he said in a deep voice, come on, seal the finance office. No one can enter or leave without an order. The third update. There will be another update in about 20 minutes. Please wait. Sorry. Chapter 780 almost crying. Captain Yan's face was solemn. This account book involved a lot of economic crimes. He could tell several different economic crimes with just a cursory glance. Captain Yan felt that Zhao's catering group had a big problem, and it might involve more illegal and criminal acts in the future. So, he hurriedly gave the order. When Wu Zifu heard the order, his face suddenly brightened. He had brought this account book in, and the purpose was naturally to frame someone. Yes. Wu Zifu hurriedly responded. The other team members also looked serious and quickly sealed up the finance office. What do you want to do? At this time, the staff of the finance office saw this and hurriedly tried to stop them. This is a financial important place. No one is allowed to enter. Just when the employees of the finance office were in a stalemate with the law enforcement officers, Su Chen and Zhou Wanqiu appeared in a hurry. I'm Zhou Wanqiu, the president of Zhao's catering group. What happened? Zhou Wanqiu asked hurriedly. Captain Yan stepped forward and said seriously, Boss Zhao, I'm the captain of the joint law enforcement team. My name is Yan Haitao. We found evidence of money laundering, bribery, tax evasion and other illegal activities in your company. Therefore, we have to seal up and investigate your finance office. Zhou Wanqiu frowned and said, impossible. We, Zhao's catering group, have always been honest and law-abiding, and would never do such a thing. On the side, Wu Zifu sneered, haha. Every company we caught said the same thing. I have found all your account books. The evidence is conclusive. Don't even think about denying it. Yan Haitao also raised the account book in his hand and said, Boss Zhao, you'd better cooperate with our inspection. Zhou Wanqiu was startled. She turned her head and looked at the employees in the finance office. The person in charge of the finance department shook his head quickly. Boss Zhao, I really don't know what's going on. Zhou Wanqiu looked at Yan Haitao and asked, Captain Yan, can you show us the account book? Before Yan Haitao could speak, Wu Zifu on the side quickly stopped him and said, no. This is your crime. What if you want to destroy the evidence? Hearing this, Yan Haitao immediately refused. Zhou Wanqiu looked grim. At this time, Su Chen glanced at the account book, then looked at Wu Zifu's flickering eyes, and suddenly understood in his heart. He sent out his mental power to detect it. Soon, Su Chen showed a sneer on his face. This account book is full of Wu Zifu's aura, and there is no aura of the company's finance department employees at all. Obviously, this account book was brought by Wu Zifu. Wu Zifu immediately said, Captain Yan, the finance department has been sealed now. Next, let's control Zhou Wanqiu. Otherwise, she is likely to abscond for fear of crime. Zhou Wanqiu's face showed a look of shock. Yan Heitao thought about it and was about to give an order. At this moment, Su Chen stepped out, stared at Wu Zifu and said, I think the one who is going to flee for fear of crime should be you. Wu Zifu's face changed. He pointed at Su Chen and said angrily, what the hell do you mean, you brat? Su Chen snorted coldly, nothing. I just want to tell you that you will go to jail for fabricating false evidence and framing others. You should be smart if you want to be a dog for others. If you get yourself involved, it's not worth it. Zhou Wanqiu was shocked and looked at Su Chen quickly. She didn't quite understand why Su Chen said that. Su Chen gave her a reassuring look. Wu Zifu's face changed wildly. He was panicked and didn't understand why Su Chen knew. Seeing everyone looking at him with doubtful eyes, Wu Zifu immediately shouted, I don't know what you are talking about. You are speaking well of Zhou Wanqiu now. I think you should also be suspected of committing a crime. Captain Yan, we should arrest this kid and Zhou Wanqiu together. Yan Heitao's eyes turned back and forth between Su Chen and Wu Zifu. In the end, he still believed in his men. Come here, control Zhou Wanqiu and him. Wu Zifu's face suddenly showed a smug smile. Boy, what else do you have to say now? You will be in trouble later. He stepped forward quickly and grabbed Su Chen. Zhou Wanqiu's face changed. However, the next second, Su Chen kicked out with lightning. Bang, crash. Wu Zifu flew directly up, knocked down a lot of tables and chairs, and then fell to the ground. For a moment, whether it was Zhou Wanqiu and the employees, or the members of the joint law enforcement team brought by Captain Yan, everyone was stunned. Ouch. It was not until Wu Zifu screamed that everyone reacted. In an instant, a group of people were in chaos. Yan Heitao's face was extremely ugly. Su Chen was simply slapping him in the face. On the side, Zhou Wanqiu's face was also a little pale. Su Chen's action this time, but it was a big disaster. This is not only obstructing public affairs, but also beating law enforcement officers. Su Chen. Zhou Wanqiu pulled Su Chen's sleeves repeatedly. Su Chen turned his head and smiled. Don't worry, I'm here. Hearing this, Zhou Wanqiu almost cried in anger. What about you? It's even more chaotic with you. At this time, Wu Zifu was also helped up by his colleagues and walked to Yan Heitao. He cried, Captain Yan, you have to make the decision for me. This bastard. Not only did he not cooperate with the investigation, he also beat me. This is the performance of his guilty conscience. We must catch him and interrogate him strictly. Wu Zifu pretended to cry, but the look in his eyes when he looked at Su Chen was full of pride. Although Su Chen beat him, this would only deepen the bad impression he left on Captain Yan. Now, Zhao's catering group will only be ruined faster. Yan Heitao stared at Su Chen and Zhou Wanqiu. Boss Zhao, I need an explanation. Zhou Wanqiu was a little flustered. She hurriedly said, Captain Yan, there must be a misunderstanding. I apologize to you on behalf of Su Chen. At this time, Su Chen waved his hand to stop him and said, Boss Zhao, you don't have to apologize for me. Zhou Wanqiu's face was very anxious. Su Chen ignored her and looked at Yan Heitao and Wu Zifu. Don't you want an explanation? I'll give it to you now. The fourth update is here. It's a little late. I'm really sorry. At least it's back to the fourth update. Good night everyone. Chapter 781 Bullying. For a moment, all the people in the joint law enforcement team glared at Su Chen. Yan Heitao stared at Su Chen and said coldly, young man, if you don't give me an explanation, this matter will not be resolved. Su Chen smiled coldly. Want an explanation? Okay, I'll give it to you now. As soon as the voice fell, Su Chen stepped forward and grabbed Wu Zifu. At this time, Wu Zifu was being supported by a group of colleagues. Seeing Su Chen grabbing him, he suddenly panicked and wanted to hide behind. However, before he could move, he was already caught in Su Chen's hands. Colleagues on both sides wanted to stop him. However, they couldn't pull him back. In the blink of an eye, Wu Zifu was picked up by Su Chen again. Suddenly, Wu Zifu looked flustered and shouted loudly, "Let me go. You are committing a crime. Captain Yan, save me. This bastard wants to kill people to silence them." Everyone suddenly became chaotic. "What do you want to do?" Yan Heitao's face was ugly. He stepped forward and glared at Su Chen. Su Chen's behavior was simply lawless. On the side, Zhou Wanqiu's face also changed. She hurriedly persuaded Su Chen, "Put him down." Su Chen coldly lifted Wu Zifu and asked, "Tell me, who asked you to frame Zhao's catering group?" Wu Zifu's eyes flashed with a trace of panic. He turned his head and shouted at Yan Heitao, "Captain Yan, please save me." Yan Heitao's face was livid. He directly took out his gun and pointed at Su Chen and said angrily, "Young man, I order you to let Wu Zifu go immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." At this time, the people carrying guns in the joint law enforcement team also took them out and pointed them at Su Chen. For a moment, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly solidified. At this time, a cold shout came. "Stop! Put down the gun." Thump thump thump. A burst of footsteps sounded. A middle-aged figure with a serious face walked in quickly with several uniformed staff members. When Yan Heitao saw the person coming, his expression suddenly became stern. "Director Shen, why are you here?" Yan Heitao quickly put away his gun, and his face became more polite. The other members of the joint law enforcement team also quickly put away their guns. Because the identity of the person in front of them was really high. Shen Heoiu, the director of the provincial government office. Such a person is not someone Yan Heitao can offend. Shen Heoiu walked quickly and looked anxious. He is a direct subordinate of Fang Dingbang. This time he was urgently appointed as the leader of the supervision team to supervise the actions of the joint law enforcement team. Shen Heoiu has also heard about the status of Su Chen in Fang Dingbang's heart. Therefore, Shen Heoiu naturally understands what Fang Dingbang wants to do by setting up this supervision team. He hurried and finally arrived in time. Fortunately, Su Chen was not in trouble. Shen Heoiu breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at Yan Heitao and scolded, "What's the situation? Do you need to use a gun? Do you have any organizational discipline?" Yan Heitao's face changed slightly, and he quickly explained, "Director Shen, this young man violently obstructed public affairs, resisted law enforcement, and now he is holding our staff hostage." Wu Zifu also hurriedly shouted, "Director Shen, help. This Su Chen, he wants to kill me. Anyway, now he will do anything to discredit Zhao's catering group." The other law enforcement team members also whispered, "Yes. It was this Su Chen who resisted law enforcement first, and he beat Wu Zifu first." However, hearing these words, Shen Heoiu snorted coldly. "Humph. Since this Mr. Su took action, he must have his reasons. Don't you listen to what he says first, and just use guns directly. Is this reasonable?" Wu Zifu. Yan Heitao. "So, this is my fault." Zhou Wanqiu was also confused. Director Shen of the supervision group seemed to be taking sides. Su Chen was amused. "Is this what it feels like to bully someone by taking advantage of your power? It's quite interesting." Shen Heoiu ignored everyone's strange looks and went straight to Su Chen. "Mr. Su, may I ask why you attacked our staff?" His tone was polite, his attitude was gentle, and he even had a warm smile on his face. Seeing this, Wu Zifu's heart skipped a beat. Su Chen smiled faintly. "I attacked Wu Zifu because he framed our Zhao catering group." Shen Heoiu raised his eyebrows and looked at Wu Zifu. "Is that true?" Wu Zifu quickly denied. "Director Shen, I don't know what this kid is talking about. Asshole, let me go." He struggled, but he couldn't escape Su Chen's control. "Don't know what I'm talking about?" Su Chen smiled coldly. "On that account book, there is only your scent. Obviously, you have been carrying it with you for a long time. You brought it in." Wu Zifu's eyes flickered. "What scent? Are you sick?" Su Chen smiled. "You don't understand the scent, so you should understand fingerprints, right? If I'm not mistaken, this account book should be brought in by you, and then you pretended to find it by accident and handed it over to Captain Yan Heitao. So, on this account book, there should only be your and Captain Yan's fingerprints, and no fingerprints of other people in our company. Is that right?" Let's record our fingerprints together and take them for testing to reveal the truth. Upon hearing this, Wu Zifu's face suddenly changed. His body suddenly shook like a sieve. No. He was panicked and didn't know how to explain. Everyone present saw what was going on. Especially Yan Heitao. He was very angry. Just now, he pointed at Su Chen's nose, saying that Su Chen obstructed public service and violently resisted the law, which was a criminal act, and he even almost pulled a gun for Wu Zifu. As a result, the person who committed the crime was actually his own men. Yan Heitao pointed at Wu Zifu. His face turned blue and red with anger. Wu Zifu was very flustered and didn't know what to say. Su Chen let him go directly and snorted coldly, "Since you are willing to be someone's dog, you must be prepared to have your legs broken. Tell me the truth. Who arranged for you to frame Zhao's catering group?" Wu Zifu's body softened, and he sat on the ground. His face was pale, and he didn't know how to explain. He only knew his life might be over. First update. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 782, Suicide by Taking Poison. Wu Zifu sat on the ground, his body shaking like a sieve. A pool of light yellow liquid slowly spread out from under him. He was out of control and frightened to the point of incontinence. Yan Heitao and other members of the joint law enforcement team suddenly looked embarrassed. At this time, Yan Heitao said, "Mr. Su, this time it's our fault. I apologize to you. However, your interrogation of Wu Zifu is still not in line with the law enforcement procedures, so can you let us take Wu Zifu back? I promise to give you an explanation." Yan Heitao looked embarrassed. He made this request for the consideration of law enforcement procedures. However, another important reason was that he didn't want to embarrass himself. Su Chen wanted to refuse. At this time, Zhou Wanqiu stepped forward. She pulled Su Chen's sleeve and looked at Yan Heitao. "I believe that Captain Yan will give us justice, right?" Yan Heitao immediately vowed, "Boss Zhao, don't worry. I promise to find out the truth and never let this kind of black sheep appear in our team again." On the side, Shan Haoyu also said, "Boss Zhao, don't worry. I, Shan Haoyu, will supervise the whole process and resolutely safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of legitimate businessmen." Zhou Wanqiu nodded. In fact, Zhao's catering group just came to the provincial capital, and she didn't want to be unreasonable. Especially, the other party is still a public figure. Zhou Wanqiu turned around and said to Su Chen, "Su Chen, since Director Shan and Captain Yan have said so, then don't worry about it." "Okay." Su Chen nodded slightly. However, he still said to Yan Heitao, "Captain Yan, if you can't get any results from the interrogation, you can let me talk to him." Yan Heitao nodded quickly. "Mr. Su, don't worry, we will definitely give your company an explanation." Zhou Wanqiu and Su Chen nodded. At this time, Yan Heitao no longer had the intention to continue the inspection. Their joint law enforcement team was originally legal and compliant, and they were justified. But now, there was a problem within themselves, which made Yan Heitao very embarrassed. Because he couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be another Wu Zifu. If he continued to investigate, I'm afraid there would be no good results. Maybe he would offend Zhao's catering group. Thinking of this, Yan Heitao said, "Mr. Zhao, Mr. Su, we'll leave first. If we find out the mastermind behind Wu Zifu, we will inform you through the official information channels. Please pay attention." "Thank you, Captain Yan." Zhou Wanqiu nodded. Then, Yan Heitao and others left in a hurry. A group of people came in a rage, but left in disgrace. Shan Haoyu also greeted Su Chen and Zhou Wanqiu, and then followed. He had promised Su Chen that he would supervise the investigation of Wu Zifu. After everyone left, the scene became quiet. Zhou Wanqiu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Now that Wu Zifu has been arrested, the Zhao group should be able to be stable for a while. However, although Zhou Wanqiu was willing to settle the matter peacefully, Su Chen was not willing to end it. He had already seen that there was definitely a mastermind behind this. However, the other party's method of framing was too crude. It was so crude that even an ordinary person could see it, which made Su Chen a little puzzled. Since it was a frame-up, why not be more concealed? Could it be that the other party was afraid that the Zhou family would not find out? Or could it be that their purpose was not really to frame? Thinking of this, Su Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. If you follow this line of thought, perhaps the other party's purpose is really not for the Zhou catering group. The Zhou catering group is not small in scale, but that is only in Bincheng. Not to mention Shangjing, even in Dongsao province, Zhou's catering group seems insignificant. If someone really wants to control Zhou's catering group, especially the new company in the provincial capital, they can use more fierce means to take down Zhou's catering group. Now this method does not seem to have much effect. Warning? Or a test? Or is there any other reason? Maybe. Su Chen looked at Zhou Wanqiu beside him. Or thought suddenly emerged in his mind. Maybe the other party's target is Zhou Wanqiu. Grandpa once said that if he stayed with Zhou Wanqiu for a year, there would be great benefits. What exactly this benefit is, Su Chen still doesn't know. However, Cheng Xianfeng, the second master of the Cheng family, once reminded Su Chen that if he was not closely related to the Zhou family, he should keep a distance from them as soon as possible. In addition to Cheng Xianfeng, Liu Shaohang's men also said that Zhou Wanqiu had an extraordinary opportunity hidden in her, and if she could get it, she might be qualified to become a saint. Become a saint. It is said that reaching this realm is almost like a true immortal. Flying into the sky, calling the wind and rain, moving mountains and filling the sea are not a problem. It can even be long-lived and ever-changing. At that time, Su Chen did not know the realm of Gie. He thought that after the realm of God, the next realm of martial arts was transcendence. But now it seems that it is probably difficult for the realm of Gie to call the wind and rain, move mountains and fill the sea. Such a terrifying realm of transcendence is actually related to the weak Zhou Wanqiu in front of him? Su Chen turned his head and looked at Zhou Wanqiu, and he couldn't figure it out. Zhou Wanqiu was stared at by Su Chen, and his face suddenly became hot. Why are you looking at me? Zhou Wanqiu was a little embarrassed. Su Chen came back to his senses. He touched his nose and smiled awkwardly. Nothing. I was distracted by thinking about something. Hearing this answer, Zhou Wanqiu was stunned, and then glared at Su Chen. Su Chen looked puzzled. By the way, how do you know that the account book was brought in by Wu Zifu? Zhou Wanqiu asked. Su Chen said, didn't I tell you? There is Wu Zifu's scent on that account book. Zhou Wanqiu rolled her eyes. If you don't want to say it, don't say it. Smell. Do you think you have a dog nose? Su Chen looked helpless. I told you the truth, but you don't believe it. I don't believe you. You talk nonsense all day long. Zhou Wanqiu rolled her eyes at Su Chen. At this moment, ding-ling-ling, a cell phone rang. Zhou Wanqiu quickly picked up the phone. What? She screamed. Su Chen turned his head and saw that Zhou Wanqiu's face was a little ugly. Boss Zhou, is there something wrong with the company again? Su Chen asked with concern. No. Zhou Wanqiu shook his head. It was Yan Heitao from the joint law enforcement team who called. He said that Wu Zifu committed suicide by taking poison shortly after getting on the car. Su Chen's face changed. Second update. Chapter 783. It's hard to die. Su Chen's face darkened. He was relieved to hand Wu Zifu over to others after Zhou Wanqiu spoke. He had hoped that the supervision team could interrogate something, but now, Su Chen asked, where are they now? I'll go and see. It's too late. Zhou Wanqiu shook her head. Yan Heitao just said that Wu Zifu had completely stopped breathing on the way to the hospital. Give me the number, I'll go and see. Su Chen didn't explain too much. Other doctors might not be able to do it, but he still wanted to try. The number is 13. Although Zhou Wanqiu didn't have much hope, Su Chen's repeated actions still made her want Su Chen to try. Captain Yan, this is Su Chen. How is that guy? Where are you? Su Chen called Yan Heitao and went straight to the point. After getting the address and route of Yan Heitao and others, Su Chen and Zhou Wanqiu asked for leave. He went downstairs directly and used the wind character technique. In an instant, A lightning-like figure rushed straight to the south bridge of Dongzhou provincial capital. The provincial capital was heavily jammed. At this time, Yan Haitao and others were stuck on the south bridge. Many drivers were waiting bored. Swish. Su Chen's figure flashed by like a gust of wind. Fuck. What's going on? Did someone just run over? In a luxury sports car, the young man looked at his female companion in confusion. The female companion rolled her eyes unhappily. Bah. I think you are just weak and hallucinating. The traffic jam is so severe. Who can run over? There were many similar conversations along the way. Su Chen ignored them. Soon, his spirit had already discovered the car that Yan Haitao and others were riding in. At this time, in the car, Captain Yan, Wu Zifu can't be saved. A law enforcement team member sighed. He had learned some medical first aid knowledge, so he naturally knew that Wu Zifu was completely dead. What a pity. Yan Haitao sighed and said, alas. You will suffer for your own sins. It's okay if this kid dies, but now he has implicated us, and we can't clear ourselves. It seems that it's impossible to find out the mastermind behind the scenes. The others were also silent. At this moment, a voice came. Don't worry. With me here, it's hard for him to die. This voice actually penetrated the car window and appeared in their minds. Who? Everyone exclaimed in panic. The car door was opened directly, and Su Chen's figure appeared in front of everyone. Give him to me, Su Chen said lightly. In fact, he had already arrived. However, it was only his spirit that arrived first. Is it you? The eyes of the law enforcement team members all looked at Su Chen. Their faces were full of anger and hostility. Although Wu Zifu made a big mistake, but they were colleagues before, and they had a good relationship. And Su Chen was almost the first factor in Wu Zifu's suicide. Therefore, when these people saw Su Chen, they couldn't help but feel disgusted and hostile. Especially now that Su Chen opened his mouth to ask for Wu Zifu's body. In their opinion, Su Chen was clearly trying to vent his anger by whipping the corpse. Mr. Su, we know you are unhappy, but is this a bit too much? Yan Haitao said in a deep voice. Su Chen urged, now, give me the person. He was too lazy to think about what these people were thinking. Yan Haitao frowned. Mr. Su, the dead are the most important. Wu Zifu has already paid the price of his life. What else do you want? Give him to me. Su Chen's voice rose a little, and his face couldn't help but be a little angry. Wu Zifu had just died not long ago. The longer he delayed, the more difficult it would be to treat him. This group of people actually delayed time with him. Su Chen naturally didn't have a good temper. Mr. Su, don't worry. We promised you that we would definitely give you an explanation. Yan Haitao said again. Seeing Yan Haitao's repeated refusal, Su Chen was too lazy to talk nonsense. He exerted force with his arm. Click. In the shocked eyes of everyone, Su Chen directly pulled down the car door. Everyone was stunned. This is a car door. He actually pulled it off with his hands. Who dares to stop him? Wouldn't he be torn to pieces by this guy? For a moment, everyone was frightened and dared not say a word. Taking advantage of this time, Su Chen stepped forward to pull out Wu Zifu's body and put it on the ground of the south bridge. Mr. Su, you are too much. You. Yan Haitao came back to his senses. His face was livid, and he wanted to step forward to stop him. At this time, Xian Haoiu and others had also gotten out of the car and surrounded him. Yan Haitao, wait a minute. Xian Haoiu stopped Yan Haitao and said, Mr. Su doesn't seem to be destroying the corpse to vent his anger. Yan Haitao was stunned. He looked carefully, but saw that Su Chen actually took out a set of golden needles. Is this to save Wu Zifu? How is it possible? The words on the lips of Yan Haitao and the law enforcement team were swallowed. Su Chen ignored everyone. Big Dipper 7 stars formation, rise. He shouted softly. Suddenly, 49 golden needles fell on Wu Zifu. These 49 golden needles of the medical saint were not randomly placed, but were secretly in line with the Big Dipper. According to legend, during the Shu Han period, Zhuge Kangming once used the 7 stars formation to prolong his life, but unfortunately Wei Yan accidentally broke the formation and failed. But Su Chen used golden needles to imitate this formation to treat Wu Zifu's life against all odds. Captain Yan, what is he doing? A law enforcement team member asked curiously. Others also looked at Yan Heitao eagerly. If I knew, would I still have to hang out with you? Yan Heitao said unhappily. He was also very curious in his heart. 9 extreme life-changing needles. Su Chen shouted softly, took out 9 golden needles of the medical saint again, and quickly pierced Wu Zifu's body. His palm brushed over, and the needle tail trembled. But, is he trying to save people? But Wu Zifu's heartbeat has stopped. Can he really be saved by him? A team member muttered. It's hard to say. However, his action is quite intimidating. Maybe a miracle will happen. Another person said with a smile. 18 hands of the ghost gate. Stop the king of hell. Su Chen formed seals with his hands, and then hit Wu Zifu's chest fiercely. What are you doing? Everyone glared at Su Chen. He was fine just now, but now he was hitting a corpse. At this moment, Wu Zifu moved. Everyone in the law enforcement team was stunned. The third update is here. Let's do 3 updates today. Good night everyone. I will try to do 4 updates tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 784 Beauty is jealous. Everyone's eyes suddenly turned to Wu Zifu. Wu Zifu's mouth opened, and a trace of black liquid slowly flowed out. It was the poison he had taken before. Wu Zifu's eyelashes also kept flickering. How is this possible? A law enforcement officer widened his eyes and pointed at Wu Zifu on the ground with trembling fingers. Is he faking his body? A female law enforcement officer shrank her head and looked through her fingers at Wu Zifu, whose fingers were moving again. At this time, Su Chen kicked Wu Zifu on the calf. Don't play dead, get up. This frightened Wu Zifu so much that he sat up. He looked a little dazed and looked at Su Chen in front of him. Then, he looked terrified. On the side, Yan Heitao was stunned. He didn't expect that Wu Zifu, whose heartbeat had just stopped, was actually revived by Su Chen. Seeing Wu Zifu wake up, Yan Heitao pointed at him and began. Wu Zifu, you actually committed suicide out of fear of crime. At this time, Xian Haoyu interrupted him directly. Alright. Stop embarrassing yourself here. First control Wu Zifu and take him to the car. This time, if he gets into trouble again, you will definitely be held responsible. Yan Heitao looked embarrassed. Before, Wu Zifu committed suicide, which was indeed his dereliction of duty. Yan Heitao immediately assured, don't worry, Director Shan, I will definitely keep an eye on Wu Zifu this time, and not let him get into any trouble. I hope you will do what you say. Xian Haoyu gave him a cold look. Then, Xian Haoyu turned around and immediately changed his face. With a friendly smile on his face, he opened the door with a smile and said to Su Chen respectfully, Mr. Su, please get in the car. Thank you. Su Chen nodded and then calmly got in the car. He was just a director of a provincial government office. He would not have any psychological pressure. After getting in the car, Su Chen directly said to Xian Haoyu, let the convoy go to the Qinhui base and let the Qinhui come to interrogate. I feel more at ease. Xian Haoyu was stunned, then smiled and said, no problem. Then, he gave instructions directly to Yan Heitao. Yan Heitao had no way to refuse, and had to agree. Mr. Su, it's done. Xian Haoyu smiled and looked at Su Chen. Su Chen nodded and stopped talking. The traffic jam was slowly cleared, and the car moved slowly again. At this time, Xian Haoyu, who was sitting next to Su Chen, showed hesitation on his face. Ahem. He coughed and said, Mr. Su, your medical skills seem to be very powerful. Su Chen said lightly, it's okay. Xian Haoyu said, Mr. Su, you are too modest. What you did just now can be called a resurrection. Resurrection? Su Chen smiled and said, no. This is not a resurrection, it's just that guy is not dead yet. Xian Haoyu complimented, you are too modest. Mr. Su, I dare to ask, do you have any solution for vegetative patients? When he said the latter, Xian Haoyu's voice became slightly trembling. Su Chen glanced at Xian Haoyu and said, it depends on the situation. Generally speaking, if there is no organic disease, if the vegetative patient is just in a dormant state, there is still a great chance of awakening. I understand now. Thank you Mr. Su for your explanation. Xian Haoyu nodded repeatedly. He couldn't help but feel a little more expectant in his heart, but it was not convenient to speak now. Soon, The convoy passed the congested area and arrived at the Qinhui provincial capital base. Everyone got off the car and escorted Wu Zifu to come. Su Chen was already familiar with this place. There were even many familiar tiger guards who greeted Su Chen affectionately. Some people even sent messages to Qin Qingmei. Su Chen, why are you here? Qin Qingmei was surprised to see Su Chen. Su Chen pointed at Wu Zifu and said, I'll leave this man to you. Help me interrogate him and find out who asked him to frame Zhao's catering group. If you can't find out, you can come to me. Qin Qingmei raised her eyebrows. Just an ordinary person. Do we need tiger guards? Su Chen, who are you looking down on? Su Chen explained. This man is not simple. Just now, he almost committed suicide by taking poison. If I hadn't rushed over in time, I'm afraid his body would have been cremated now. Qin Qingmei immediately understood. Okay, leave this matter to me. I'll give you the result soon. As she spoke, she directly arranged for the tiger guards to take Wu Zifu away. Wu Zifu's face was grey, but there was nothing he could do. On the side, Yan Heitao, Shan Heoiu and others naturally accompanied him to do the transfer procedures. Su Chen saw that the matter was settled and was about to say goodbye and leave. At this time, Qin Qingmei suddenly said, I just met Li Weichang, and he praised you very much. He said that you are the best young man he has ever seen. At this point, Qin Qingmei rolled her eyes at Su Chen. In the past, this title has always been mine. Su Chen looked at Qin Qingmei and touched his nose. This woman, wouldn't she be jealous of even this? Li Weichang is too kind. Su Chen smiled. Suddenly, Su Chen remembered that after he temporarily helped Li Changfeng stabilize his internal injuries last time, he promised to help him find medicinal materials and completely cure his internal injuries. But he was busy later and was trapped in Changyang Mountain for 3 days, and he almost forgot about it. Before, Su Chen gave the necessary medicines to Bian Sansan. But Bian Sansan was trapped in Changyang Mountain with him, and he might not have time to find medicine. Su Chen was just about to call Bian Sansan. At this moment, a hearty laugh rang out. Mr. Su, you're here. Li Changfeng's hearty laugh suddenly came. Chapter 785 9 Heavens and 10 Earths. Captain Li, you're here. Su Chen was a little embarrassed. After all, he promised to help Li Changfeng find medicinal herbs to completely treat his internal injuries, but he forgot about it later. Li Changfeng smiled. Mr. Su, I'm not urging you to treat me. You were trapped in Changyang Mountain for 3 days to save Captain Qin and our brothers in the Tiger Guard. I already know about this. Don't worry. Su Chen nodded and said, before, I asked someone to find medicinal herbs. I'll ask him now. As he spoke, Su Chen called Bian Sansan. Although Bian Sansan was trapped in Changyang Mountain like himself, he might have asked others to find them. Seeing this, Li Changfeng suddenly felt a glimmer of hope in his heart. Soon, Su Chen's call was connected. 3 days ago, I asked you to find the herbs. Is there any news? On the other side, Bian Sansan's excited voice came. Master, I just wanted to talk to you. The herbs were delivered to the provincial capital yesterday, but I was trapped in Changyang Mountain and didn't receive the call. Now, the herbs are in my hands. Su Chen was immediately delighted. If it's convenient for you now, please help me send it to the Qinhui base. No problem, Master. Bian Sansan agreed immediately. The phone was hung up. Su Chen said something to Li Changfeng, and Li Changfeng was immediately overjoyed. But, great. Half an hour later, Bian Sansan arrived by car. He got out of the car and handed over 2 wooden boxes. Master, these are the herbs you want. Master, there's me. I also helped a lot. Lu Daokan was not to be outdone. Su Chen smiled helplessly. Since both of you are here, then come with me to see it. Soon, Su Chen led the two to meet Li Changfeng. It's you. Seeing Li Changfeng, Bian Sansan and Lu Daokan said in unison, and couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Do you know each other? Su Chen couldn't help but be a little surprised. He looked at Li Changfeng curiously, and then at Bian Sansan and the other two. Master, this gentleman came to me in a black cloak, and almost scared me, to not dare to see patients. Bian Sansan looked frightened. Master, me too. Lu Daokan nodded. At that time, this gentleman knocked everyone out, and I thought it was a robbery. Li Changfeng smiled awkwardly. What he did at that time was also forced. Li Changfeng bowed slightly. Divine Dr. Bian, Divine Dr. Lu, long time no see. Long time no see. Long time no see. The two shook their hands again and again. However, it seems that Li Changfeng has left a big shadow on the two. The two did not dare to step forward and shrank behind Su Chen, like two quails. Su Chen was a little suspicious. How did Li Changfeng scare the two old men? Mr. Li is not a bad person, but his identity is too special. He is worried that you will reveal the secret, so he has to do this. Su Chen explained with a smile. Yeah. The two old men suddenly realized and nodded. However, they were still a little timid. The memory at that time was indeed not very pleasant for them. Captain Li, don't worry about them. Let's take a look at your injuries first. Su Chen was too lazy to pay attention to these two old fools. Mr. Su, that's troublesome. Li Changfeng couldn't help but show a hint of joy on his face. Li Changfeng knew exactly how his injuries were. In fact, he had long given up the idea of being able to cure them, but Su Chen gave him an unexpected surprise. Last time, Su Chen helped him show how to stabilize his internal injuries. This time, he had to help him completely cure his internal injuries. Even though Su Chen had said in person that he could only treat his internal injuries for the time being and could not solve the poison in his internal organs. But this was already a huge surprise for Li Changfeng. Then, Li Changfeng took off his clothes according to Su Chen's arrangement. Xianqi, Xiangxi, Lingsu, Shenzang, Yunmen. Su Chen spoke while slowly placing 9 medical saint gold needles. His movements were extremely slow, like an apprentice. Bian Sanson and Lu Daokan stared at Su Chen's acupuncture. They knew that Su Chen was taking care of them, so he used such a slow speed to perform acupuncture. This is the 9 heavens soul locking. Su Chen whispered, the position and size of the 9 needles must not be wrong at all. Otherwise, not only will it not be able to lock the soul, but it may also be able to arrest the soul. Hearing Su Chen say this, the two held their breath and concentrated, fearing that they would miss any details. They had never even come into contact with this kind of acupuncture method. Qihei, Shiban, Guanilan, Teju. Su Chen inserted the needles again. However, this time the position was lower, and the needle positions were also 10 important acupuncture points. This is the 10 earths facing the sky. Su Chen spoke, looking at the two old men who were listening honestly, and nodded slightly. The two had a really good attitude, and their hard work was not in vain. He continued to explain, in ancient times, there was a saying of 9 heavens and 10 earths. People lived on the earth, and had a sense of awe for the 9 heavens. The 9 heavens and 10 earths soul locking needle originated from this. The position, size, and angle of each needle are different, so you must remember them. Among them, the Qihei is the most special, which is 2 inches, the Xianzi is 1 inch and 6. When treating Li Weichang's internal injuries, you must first use this acupuncture method to lock his soul. Su Chen explained it carefully. Disciples, please teach me. The two bowed together. This was not the first time Su Chen taught them, but this was the first time he taught them the treatment methods of practitioners. Whether it was martial arts practitioners or soul practitioners, they were different from ordinary people. They were so powerful that they could be said to be beyond the cognition of ordinary people. Even though Bian Sanson and Lu Daokan were both divine doctors on the saint hand list, they were still helpless in many cases when facing practitioners with high cultivation. The method Su Chen taught them this time could be used by them in many cases. Master Bian, prepare the herbs. Su Chen instructed as he methodically treated Li Changfeng's injuries. This treatment was naturally different from the last one. Last time, because there were no herbs, Su Chen could only temporarily help Li Changfeng suppress his injuries. This time, he wanted to completely cure Li Changfeng's internal injuries. Chapter 786 Non-Earth Poison. Master, this is the golden essence stone and flying dragon palm blood you requested. And these are all common herbs for supplementation. Don't worry, I've checked them all. Bian Sanson handed over the herbs and said respectfully, yes. Su Chen nodded slightly. Last time, the reason why Li Changfeng's injury could not be treated was because of the lack of the two herbs, golden essence stone, and flying dragon palm blood. On the market, ordinary golden essence stone and flying dragon palm blood are very common. But because Li Changfeng's injury was too serious, ordinary herbs could not meet Su Chen's requirements at all. Fortunately, Bian Sanson is a divine doctor on the saint hand list, and his network of contacts is relatively wide. He quickly found these uncommon herbs. Su Chen took the herbs handed over by Bian Sanson and confirmed them carefully. Not only were the golden essence stone and flying dragon palm blood fine, but even the other herbs were more potent. You two, help me take care of Li Weichang for the time being. If you find anything wrong, quickly remove the golden needles from Li Weichang. Su Chen instructed Bian Sanson and the others. The two of them nodded in unison. Master, don't worry. Immediately, two pairs of eyes were fixed on the golden needles, fearing that the unexpected situation Su Chen mentioned would occur. And Su Chen walked to the quiet room on the side. Refine. Su Chen shouted in his heart. Then, the Zhou Wanqiu engine was activated. A light black flame energy rushed out. Then, he began to slowly refine the medicinal materials in his hand. In the past, Su Chen needed the help of the alchemy furnace to refine the elixir. Now, his soul realm has reached the spiritual fairy master, and his control is countless levels stronger than before. Not to mention just refining this kind of non-spiritual medicine level elixir, even if it is a spiritual medicine, Su Chen is sure that he does not rely on the alchemy furnace to refine it. Hoo-hoo. Under the control of Su Chen's powerful mental power, the temperature of the light black flame was sometimes high and sometimes low. Every part of all the medicinal materials was refined at the right temperature. This kind of wonderful control method, if seen by other spiritual fairy masters, would be greatly shocked. Because Su Chen's mental strength is no weaker than that of an ordinary middle-stage spiritual god. Half an incense stick of time, it was gone in the blink of an eye. In Su Chen's hand, there was the warm elixir, which was the healing medicine he refined with the Zhou Wanqiu engine. Su Chen walked back to the room again. Li Changfeng looked at Su Chen with anticipation. Captain Li, take this and try it. Su Chen smiled and handed the pill in his hand over. Suddenly, a faint medicinal fragrance filled the air. Bian Sanson and Lu Daokan's eyes lit up. When they smelled this pill, they felt refreshed. It's definitely a miracle drug. Li Changfeng could naturally feel it too. He quickly took the pill and swallowed it without any hesitation. The pill melted as soon as it entered his stomach, turning into surging energy to repair the injuries in Li Changfeng's body. The golden needles on his body worked with the pill to speed up the entire recovery process. Just a few minutes passed. I'm. Li Changfeng was stunned. He clearly felt that his internal injuries had been completely healed, and only the internal organ poison that was like a bone attaching cancer remained in his body. My internal injuries are healed. I'm really completely healed. Li Changfeng's face was overjoyed. He turned around and thanked Su Chen non-stop. Su Chen waved his hand and said, Captain Li, don't be too happy too soon. Although your internal injuries have completely healed, the poison in your internal organs cannot be eliminated yet. Before the poison in your internal organs is completely eliminated, you only have 3 opportunities to attack with all your strength. Last time, Su Chen helped Li Changfeng suppress his internal injuries, allowing him to attack with all his strength 3 times. This time, Li Changfeng's internal injuries were completely healed. He can already participate in 3 battles of the same level without triggering the poison in his internal organs. 3 times? Li Changfeng was slightly stunned. He then laughed heartily and said, 3 times, that's enough. As for the poison in the internal organs, if there is really no way, it's also my life, Li. Seeing Li Changfeng's attitude, Su Chen smiled. It's not that there is absolutely no way, but, at this point, Su Chen looked hesitant. Li Changfeng's eyes suddenly lit up. Su Chen, could it be that you can cure the poison in my internal organs? His face was full of disbelief. I need some time. Su Chen replied cautiously. Li Changfeng showed excitement. No hurry, no hurry. 3 to 5 years is not too early, and 30 to 50 years is not too late. Captain Li, you are joking. I will think of a way as soon as possible. Su Chen laughed. Li Changfeng nodded heavily and said, Su Chen, I know how tricky the poison in my internal organs is. I'm really not in a hurry, don't feel pressured. Su Chen nodded. There was a slight hesitation on his face, and he said, "Captain Li, there is something that is not worth saying." "You say?" Li Changfeng was stunned. He didn't expect Su Chen to suddenly say such a thing. "Old Bian, old Lu, you go out and wait for me first." Su Chen looked at Bian Sanson and the other two. The two old men naturally got up and went out without saying anything. Li Changfeng, on the other hand, was a little confused. After the two old men left, Su Chen hesitated and said, "Captain Li, the poison in your internal organs should not be the poison on our earth, right?" You. Li Changfeng raised his eyebrows, and there was a hint of murderous intent in his eyes when he looked at Su Chen. "Captain Li, I have no ill intentions, otherwise I would not have sent them away." Su Chen's face was indifferent. "Okay, I believe you." Li Changfeng nodded slightly. He said in a deep voice, "That's right. My poison is indeed not the poison of the earth." The third update. There will be another update later. Chapter 787 Fang Sheng's advice. "Then, what are you doing?" Su Chen tried to speak. To be honest, he was indeed curious about Li Changfeng's internal poison. Li Changfeng sighed. "Su Chen, listen to my advice. Don't ask for the time being. You will know when you should know." Su Chen looked at Li Changfeng, only to see that he was thoughtful. Li Changfeng spoke again. "Su Chen, thank you for your hard work this time. Since you said that I have 3 opportunities to use my full strength, if you get into trouble, you can come to me. Now, I want to recuperate." Su Chen was slightly stunned. Li Changfeng's attitude was already very clear. He didn't want to talk about his internal poison injury and where it came from. "Okay. Then Li Weichang, have a good rest. I'll take my leave first." After speaking, Su Chen bowed and left. Li Changfeng sent Su Chen out the door. After closing the door, Li Changfeng's face showed a trace of pain. On the other side, after Su Chen left Li Changfeng's office, he had more questions in his mind. He couldn't help but secretly wonder, what is the origin of this Li Changfeng? In fact, last time, Su Chen discovered that something was wrong with Li Changfeng's injuries. His internal injuries did not seem to be caused by the dragon country's strong men, or even by the earth's strong men. Before he met the old man Yangshan, Su Chen would only be secretly puzzled. Now, he has a new and wild guess. "Old man, do you know what the poison in Li Weichang's internal organs is?" Su Chen could not help but ask the old man Yangshan in the sea of consciousness. "Shiankvine." The old man Yangshan's answer seemed weak. It seemed that, because the power of Yangshan was absorbed, he had completely lost his fighting spirit. "Shiankvine?" Su Chen frowned slightly and said in his heart, as expected, the poison in Li Changfeng's internal organs actually came from the pure and quiet Liuli realm. This was both unexpected and reasonable. If the poison in his internal organs came from the Liuli realm, then everything would make sense. The pure and quiet Liuli realm is a place where cultivation is flourishing, so it is not surprising that there are any strange and bizarre spiritual medicines and spiritual poisons. It seems that Li Weichang also has a lot of secrets. Su Chen muttered in his heart. However, he didn't have the idea of finding out. Su Chen met Bian Sanson and Lu Daokan and was about to leave together. "Master, Captain Qin is here." Bian Sanson's voice came, interrupting Su Chen's thoughts. Su Chen looked up and saw Qin Mui walking towards him. "Su Chen, I found out that Wu Zifu is not a powerful person. He was just bribed by the Liu family." Qin Mui said. "It's the Liu family." Su Chen nodded slightly. He had guessed that it was related to the Liu family before, and now it seems to be true. However, the other party's frame-up method was a bit too crude. It seemed to be to warn Zhou Wanqiu not to really destroy the Zhou group. Of course, if he was not there at the time and there was no supervision team, it would not be impossible for the other party to take Zhou Wanqiu away. Perhaps, for the other party, this was just a casual move. Success or failure is not important. If it succeeds, it's good, but if it doesn't, there is no loss. "Captain Qin, is Wu Zifu still in the interrogation room?" Su Chen looked up at Qin Mui. He still wanted to interrogate this matter himself. "Come with me." Qin Mui nodded. Then, she took Su Chen to the place where Wu Zifu was imprisoned. As for Bian Sanson and the other two, they were sent away by Su Chen. After meeting Wu Zifu, Su Chen also used his own methods to see if he could get any useful information. However, no matter what methods Su Chen used, the results he got were no different from the results of the investigation of the Qinhui. Wu Zifu, this guy, was really just bribed. Just after walking out of the Qinhui interrogation room, Su Chen saw Yan Heitao and Shan Heoyu coming towards him. Yan Heitao asked with concern, "Mr. Su, I wonder if Wu Zifu, he's fine, you can take him away." Su Chen waved his hand. It is normal for a mill or enforcement team member to not get any useful information. "Thank you, Mr. Su." Yan Heitao's face was full of gratitude. This is a scandal within their law enforcement team, and even if it needs to be dealt with, it should be handled internally as much as possible. Director Shan, thank you very much this time. Su Chen turned around and bowed slightly to Shan Heoyu. No matter what, he had come here with him. "Mr. Su, you are too polite." Shan Heoyu smiled slightly and said, "By the way, Provincial Governor Fang asked me to bring you a message. I wonder if you are now." "You say?" Su Chen nodded. Shan Heoyu looked around and stepped closer to Su Chen. He whispered, "Provincial Governor Fang said that bedbugs are not scary, and the flies behind bedbugs may not be powerful either, but be careful that there may be tigers behind the flies. Even with your current strength, it is best to avoid them." Su Chen was slightly stunned. He clasped his fists and bowed. "Thank you." Su Chen could see something. The Liu family did not gain much advantage in several confrontations. In Su Chen's mind, the Liu family was indeed not scary. However, the appearance of some people and things was completely beyond Su Chen's expectations. For example, the 8th level formation, and the mysterious stone tablet. And, that dry-faced monk with various means. Is that guy really just a casual cultivator? A top-level expert in the 3 realms of vitality, mental power and physical body, who is also proficient in formations, and has a powerful hidden weapon like the withered and flourishing needle. Such an existence actually feels a bit unknown. To be honest, such a strong man, let alone Dongsao province, I'm afraid that there are not many in Shangjing. What is the origin of that withered monk? Are there other people or forces behind him? The 4th update is here. Thank you for your support. Good night, everyone, and sweet dreams. Chapter 788, Visit Again. Su Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about these things. At this time, Shan Heoyu, who was standing aside, did not leave. He looked at Su Chen with a tangled look on his face. Seeing him in such a state, Su Chen took the initiative to ask, "Director Shan, what can I do for you?" Shan Heoyu smiled awkwardly. He hesitated for a moment and said that, "Mr. Su, I have an unwelcome request. I wonder if it is convenient for you." Director Shan has something to say, just say it. Su Chen smiled. This time, Zhao's catering group. I troubled Director Shan to make this trip. Su Maoming is very grateful. Shan Heoyu's face suddenly brightened. "Mr. Su, I have a friend who grew up with me. He was in a car accident some time ago and was in a coma. I wonder if you can help treat him." Shan Heoyu's face was full of expectation. Su Chen smiled. Since he is Director Shan's friend, it is naturally not a problem. When it is convenient for you, just send the patient to Cheng's villa. Su Mao will do his best to treat him. Su Chen said politely. He didn't care about Director Shan's identity. However, Shan Heoyu represented Fang Dingbang. Since he was Fang Dingbang's man, Su Chen should give him some face. Besides, Shan Heoyu had always been very nice, and Su Chen had a good impression of him. "Thank you, Mr. Su. Thank you, Mr. Su." Shan Heoyu's eyes were full of joy when he heard Su Chen agreed. He had seen Su Chen's methods. If Su Chen took action, his friend would most likely wake up. Immediately, Shan Heoyu and others said goodbye to Su Chen and left. And Su Chen also left. After walking out of the gate of the Qinhui base, Su Chen stopped. He looked into the distance with cold eyes. "Liu family? What are Liu family? Do you really think I have a good temper?" Humph. The Liu family had taken action again and again, and had already touched his reverse scale. Now that Su Chen has taken another step forward and achieved the status of a spiritual power master, it is time to settle the accounts. Su Chen's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he was about to leave. At this moment, a voice rang out. Su Chen, what are you going to do? Su Chen turned around and saw King Mui chasing after him. Murder. Su Chen's voice was cold. Su Chen, don't mess around. King Mui said hurriedly, the Liu family is not simple. Su Chen smiled. Don't worry, I won't mess around. I have fought with them several times. King Mui still looked worried. She bit her lower lip lightly and said with hesitation, how about I go with you? In case of any accidents, I can still use the Tiger Guard to save you. Su Chen looked at King Mui unexpectedly. King Mui is a senior member of the Tiger Guard of Dongzhou province. Her every move represents the Tiger Guard. It is rare for her to say such words. Su Chen smiled and looked at King Mui. What? Captain Qin is worried about my safety? Swish. A thin layer of blush rose on King Mui's cold and pretty face. Bullshit. She spat and said, I'm afraid that you will die in the hands of the Liu family and lose the face of our Dongzhou province Tiger Guard. After all, you are still the consultant of our Tiger Guard. Su Chen smiled casually and said, don't worry. Now, those people may not be able to do anything to me. After his mental strength broke through again, Su Chen's confidence increased a lot. Let's go. Thank you Captain Qin for your concern. After the voice fell, Su Chen flashed away. King Mui looked at Su Chen's departing figure and spat again. Bah. Ghost cares about you. You are so arrogant, you deserve to be beaten to death. However, despite saying so, but King Mui's eyes looking into the distance still carried a trace of worry. Dong Group. Chairman's office. During this period, Jin Donglei and his son were not having a good time. The eldest son of the Liu family came to Dongzhou, but did not come to Dong Group. Even many of the subsequent business activities did not involve Dong Group. Dad, it seems that the Liu family does not trust us. Jin Qiansheng looked grim. Alas. Jin Donglei sighed softly. It seems that the Liu family has also begun to doubt us. Jin Qiansheng was angry. Dad, this is not our fault. It's Liu Shaohang who is useless. This may not be a bad thing. At least we can avoid making enemies with Su Chen. Jin Donglei's eyes were deep. Hearing this, Jin Qiansheng also nodded. That's right. Su Chen is really too scary. If we follow the Liu family, we may be. At this point, Jin Qiansheng suddenly stopped talking. His eyes continued to stare at the surveillance screen on the computer. In the surveillance screen, a familiar figure stepped forward. It was Su Chen. Dad, look. Jin Qiansheng exclaimed. Seeing the surveillance screen, Jin Donglei's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Su Chen. Why is he here again? It seems that we have to be the mouthpiece again. Jin Donglei remembered Liu Shaoan's explanation. At the beginning, the eldest son of the Liu family came to the provincial capital of Dongzhou province, but he did not come to Dong Group. Instead, it was the second son of the eldest branch of the Liu family who came to Dong Group and gave them an address. At that time, Jin Qiansheng was still puzzled, but now he suddenly understood a little. Bang. Crash. The safety explosion-proof door of Dong Group was kicked into pieces again. Su Chen's familiar face suddenly appeared in front of Jin Donglei and his son. Su Chen, what are you doing here again? Seeing Su Chen appear, Jin Qiansheng had already had a stress reaction. His voice trembled, and his body shook like a sieve. Seeing the two of them, Su Chen couldn't help but smile. It's great that you and your son are here. Don't worry, I won't bother you today. Jin Donglei forced himself to suppress his fear and pretended to be calm. Su Chen, what do you want to do? Su Chen pondered for a moment and suddenly looked up. I heard that a lot of people from the Liu family came this time. You and your son should know their whereabouts, right? Jin Donglei's face changed. If I tell you, will you stop making things difficult for us father and son? Of course. Su Chen smiled. You are not worth my effort at all. You should know who I really want to deal with. Okay, I'll tell you. Jin Donglei took a deep breath and said, but you have to promise not to bother us father and son again. First update. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 789, The Old Dao. Seeing Jindangle nagging, Su Chen frowned. He snorted coldly, "Stop talking nonsense. If you keep nagging, don't blame me for using tricks. I guess you still remember the lesson from last time, right?" Jindangle was immediately frightened. He hurriedly said, I'll tell you. The Liu family is in Kingsang Mountain. There is a Kingsang temple there, and there is a small courtyard nearby, and they are all there. That's more like it." Su Chen nodded. He was about to leave, and suddenly turned around and said, "By the way, you shouldn't have done anything weird during this period, right? How dare we?" A smile uglier than crying appeared on Jindangle's face. The degree of terror of Su Chen in his heart has even surpassed that of the Liu family. Su Chen's cold eyes swept over the father and son. "That's good. You should behave yourself. If you dare to do anything wrong again, you should know my tricks." After speaking, Su Chen walked away directly. Just as Su Chen stepped out of the door, Jindangle's barely detectable voice came from the chairman's office. "Mr. Su, you have to be careful." Su Chen paused and then left. Jindangle and Jinkai and Sheng looked at the blast door that had been broken into pieces on the ground, looked at each other, and breathed a sigh of relief. At least, it was a false alarm. On the other side, Su Chen walked out of the Dan Group building. He activated the wind character formula and headed straight for Kingsang Mountain. Now that he knew where the Liu family was, he didn't want to miss this opportunity. Kingsang Mountain is not big, and it is not well known in the provincial capital of Dongzhou province. However, Su Chen had heard a little about it. It is said that the Taoist priest of Kingsang Temple has some cultivation. After half an hour, Su Chen came to the foot of a small hill. This mountain is quite low. It is Kingsang Mountain. Even if he stands at the foot of the mountain, everything on the mountain seems to be visible to him. Su Chen was about to go up the mountain, but was stopped by a young Taoist priest. "Layman, please stop. In the past few days, our temple will not receive any pilgrims. If you want to burn incense, please go to other Taoist temples." The young Taoist priest bowed. "Oh." Su Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. He glanced at the small courtyard on the mountain and said, "Little Taoist priest, are you afraid of the people in that small courtyard? Don't worry, with me here, they can't make any trouble. You." Hearing Su Chen's words, the young Taoist priest's face changed. He looked panicked and was about to make a move. Suddenly, Su Chen made a lightning move and grabbed his wrist. The next second, the surging vitality instantly poured into the young Taoist priest's body. The young Taoist priest was startled and was about to resist. Suddenly, he found that his body suddenly became lighter. "Come, try to see how your body recovers," Su Chen said with a smile. He had a good impression of Taoist priests since he was a child. Since the first time he saw this young Taoist priest, Su Chen found that he was poisoned. Therefore, Su Chen helped him to remove it. The young Taoist felt his body and understood what happened. He looked at Su Chen gratefully and said, "Okay." The young Taoist was not polite and punched him. Bang! The small tree next to him was broken in half. The young Taoist's face was instantly overjoyed. Plop! The young Taoist knelt down to Su Chen and said, "Senior, please help me save my master." Su Chen nodded and said, "Okay, you lead the way." The two climbed the stairs. Along the way, Su Chen looked around with a serious look in his eyes. Although the Taoist temple on Kingsang Mountain is not very big, Su Chen did not underestimate it at all. This Taoist temple is not simple. Su Chen is proficient in Taoism, so he can naturally see the extraordinariness of Kingsang Temple. In the past, he only heard about it. After careful observation today, he found that this Taoist temple actually has some taste of true Taoist practice. This mountain is inconspicuous, but the spiritual energy is quite rich. Even though it is not as good as the formation bonus of Cheng's villa, it is more than twice as strong as ordinary places. The Liu family really has capable people. Su Chen thought secretly in his heart. They did not go to Dan Group, but came here, so it can be imagined that the Liu family's means are not bad. Master, you are saved." I brought a senior who easily dissolved my poison. The little Taoist shouted inside while running. At this moment, a rather old voice came from the inner courtyard. King Su, you are not young anymore. Why are you still so reckless? If you do this again, be careful or I will punish you to copy the Kingxin mantra 10 times. The little Taoist's face changed. He stuck out his tongue and led Su Chen into the inner courtyard. Entering the inner courtyard, Su Chen saw an old man sitting on the futon in the center of the lobby. The Taoist robe on the old man was quite damaged, and it seemed that he had fought with someone recently. But even so, the old Taoist's eyes were still clear. Those eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. When the old Taoist's eyes fell on Su Chen's face, he was slightly startled. At this time, the young Taoist ran to the old Taoist and said, "Master, what I said is true. The poison in my body is gone. This senior is really powerful. He can definitely detoxify you." The young Taoist's face was full of joy and excitement. But the old Taoist was not too excited. He looked up and down at Su Chen and asked, "Where are you from? And where are you going, sir?" The old Taoist raised his hand slightly to salute. His movements were a little stiff, and it could be seen that he seemed to be seriously injured. Su Chen also returned the salute. "Hello, Taoist priest. I came from the capital of Dongzhou province to find some bad guys. I wonder if you can give me some advice." He had already seen that the old Taoist was seriously injured. "Good." The old man nodded and said, "The layman came from the provincial capital of Dongzhou. He must be the person those laymen were waiting for. However, the old Taoist has a word of advice for you. Don't try to be the leader in everything." Su Chen clasped his fists and bowed. "Thank you for your advice, Taoist. However, Taoist, you only need to tell me the truth. Those people hurt you, Taoist. I'm sure you don't want them to get away with it." The old Taoist waved his hands. "The so-called flesh body is nothing but a stinky skin bag. I have practiced for many years, but I'm no match for others. This is my disaster. I can't blame others. I can't blame others." Second update. Chapter 790 Silver Thread Boo. "Master, don't you think about your disciple? What if those people attack you again? You are open-minded, but your disciple." Su Chen spoke slowly, with a strange rhythm in his voice. "Ah." The old Taoist sighed. He seemed really unwilling to get involved in the disputes between these powerful people. If he was alone, he could really let it go. But now, there is a little disciple Kingsu by his side, which makes him very helpless. The little Taoist stood aside, without saying a word, quietly listening to the conversation between Su Chen and the old Taoist. After a moment of silence, the old Taoist slowly said, "Layman, the old Taoist has an unwelcome request. I wonder if you are willing to take care of my little disciple." The old Taoist's bright eyes were filled with deep attachment, and he seemed reluctant to part with the little Taoist. "No." Su Chen shook his head. The old Taoist's face darkened. At this time, Su Chen said again, "He is your disciple. It is better for the Taoist to take care of him personally." "But poor Taoist." The old Taoist hesitated to speak, with a bitter smile on his face. He had already realized that he didn't have much time left, and he might not be able to hold on for much longer. Su Chen did not answer, but looked at the young Taoist priest. "Young Taoist priest, please fetch me a bowl of water." The young Taoist priest was startled and looked at the old Taoist priest. "King Su, go." The old Taoist priest saw his disciple looking at him, and could not help but smile and nod. The young Taoist priest King Su nodded and left quickly. At this time, Su Chen spoke slowly again. "Master, I wonder how many powerful gods there are among those people." The reason why he came to Kingsang Temple was not to chat with this old Taoist priest whom he had never met. First, of course, he wanted to confirm the strength of the Liu family. Second, Su Chen was also waiting for reinforcement. Although he wanted to kill them, he would not think that he was invincible. After all, the Liu family was a family in Shangjing. With such a force, they must have many powerful gods. As expected, the Taoist said with a serious face, "From my observation, there are more than 10 masters in the god realm." More than 10. Hearing this number, even Su Chen was secretly shocked. It seems that the Liu family has really invested a lot this time. Su Chen's eyes became slightly serious. More than 10 masters in the god realm are a huge force anywhere, and no one can resist it. Even in a place like Shangjing where there are so many powerful people, there are probably not many forces that can directly produce more than 10 masters in the god realm. It seems that the Liu family attaches great importance to Dongzhou province. The water is coming. The Taoist Kingsu ran over quickly with the blue and white porcelain bowl. However, although he was very fast, the water in the bowl was very calm, without any ripples. Master, please bear with it for a while. Su Chen took the blue and white porcelain bowl and pointed his other hand at the wrist of the Taoist. Layman, what are you going to do? The Taoist saw Su Chen take action and subconsciously wanted to stop him in front of his master. Unfortunately, how could his speed compare to Su Chen's? The next moment, the Taoist's wrist was grasped by Su Chen. Go! Su Chen shouted in his heart. Suddenly, a strange little needle, which was neither gold nor wood, pierced the Taoist's wrist. Withering needle. When Su Chen scared the withered monk away and ran away in Changyang Mountain, he took it from Zhang Tian. After studying it, Su Chen found that, although the withering needle was vicious, it was also very extraordinary if used in the right way. In Su Chen's hand, although he had a set of medical saint gold needles given by the Cheng family, it was a medical magic weapon that countless medical saints dreamed of. But the medical saint gold needles did not have much effect on the Taoist's current situation. On the contrary, the withering needle was more suitable. Withering needle can cause great damage to the human body. One withering and one flourishing is enough to exhaust the vitality of most strong men. Similarly, the withering needle also affects other living things, such as poisonous poisons and poisonous insects. If used to eliminate poisonous insects in the human body, the effect of the withered and flourishing needle is even more powerful than Su Chen's other medical methods. Su Chen dropped the needle, and the old Taoist couldn't help but groan. The already old face added a few more wrinkles. Master. The young Taoist was furious. He stared at Su Chen angrily, as if he wanted to stop him again. Kingsu, I'm fine. The old Taoist's voice sounded. His voice was still old, but more vigorous than before. Master, you. The young Taoist was still a little worried. He was afraid that his master was now in the last moments of life. Don't worry, young Taoist. Su Chen smiled and said, your master is poisoned like you. I'm using poison to fight poison. That's right. Just as Su Chen said, his method of using the withered and flourishing needle is indeed not much different from using poison to fight poison. It's just that the old Taoist has a higher level of cultivation, and the enemy can't be controlled by ordinary poisons, but a master of the Liu family who poisons. Poison is different from ordinary poisons. They are a kind of poison with life, and can even be controlled remotely by those powerful people. Su Chen came to the Taoist temple to find out the details of the Liu family. The Liu family, who were waiting for the opportunity, also wanted to know Su Chen's trump card. However, I'm afraid that the Liu family would never have thought that Su Chen could use the withering needle to eliminate the poison. Whoosh! As Su Chen pulled out the withering needle, a line of blood shot out directly along the place where the withering needle was inserted. Su Chen was holding a blue and white porcelain bowl and had been waiting there for a long time. Suddenly, a silver grey insect appeared in the blue and white porcelain bowl. Layman, what is this? The little Taoist priest came over curiously and seemed to want to pick up the bowl to see what the insect looked like. Don't come over. Su Chen hurriedly stopped him. He took the bowl aside and said, this is called silver thread goo. This kind of goo poison is extremely difficult to deal with. The little Taoist priest was a little puzzled. Layman, is this difficult to deal with? I think it seems easy for you to pick this little thing out. Su Chen just smiled faintly and did not explain. He turned to look at the old Taoist, who was no longer in pain. Kingsu, don't be rude to a layman. The old Taoist scolded. Then, he bowed to Su Chen and said, thank you very much for saving my life. Master, you don't have to be polite. It was just a coincidence that I was able to control this poison. Su Chen smiled and said modestly, don't be modest, layman. The old Taoist smiled. I'm also a god level cultivator, but I can't do anything with this thing. The third update is here. 3 updates today. Good night, everyone. Go to bed early. Thank you for your support. Chapter 791. Temporary Extinction of Life. On the side, the young Taoist priest was stunned. He asked, Master, aren't you seriously injured? Why are you helpless with this little thing? King Su, you don't know. The old Taoist priest looked at him, then sighed. This little thing can actually connect with my vitality. As long as I'm alive, this little thing will not die. If I die, this little thing will not live. Moreover, it can't be expelled from the body at all. The young Taoist priest King Su was even more puzzled. Master, if it can't be expelled from the body, what's going on now? Just now, this layman just poked you and got this little thing out. The old Taoist priest was stunned, then smiled bitterly and looked at Su Chen. In fact, he was also very curious. Layman, this requires you to solve our puzzles. I don't know what means you used to make this little thing give up the connection with my life. Hearing this, Su Chen showed a half smile on his face. Master, do you still remember the moment of palpitation just now? Just now, he had activated the power of the withered and flourishing needle, and the old Taoist priest almost misunderstood that Su Chen wanted to kill him. As a result, in just a moment, the feeling of palpitation disappeared. At this moment, when Su Chen mentioned it again, the old Taoist's eyes suddenly lit up. He widened his eyes and looked at Su Chen. Layman, you mean, you tricked the goo worm? That's right. It was a trick. Su Chen used the withered and flourishing needle to trick the silver thread goo. Speaking of which, this was also his helpless move. The old Taoist priest's life and the silver thread goo were intertwined, and he could only take out the silver thread goo first. Moreover, doing so is not completely without benefits. The silver thread goo was not dead, but was temporarily sealed by Su Chen. Since the other party used the silver thread goo, Su Chen decided to play the trick. This silver thread goo is of a very high level. It is not an ordinary goo worm at all. It can even transmit information to its owner. But in Su Chen's hands, if it is used well, it can be used to transmit false information. Master, what do you mean? How can you deceive? The little Taoist priest was confused. He didn't understand what Su Chen and the old Taoist were talking about. Silly boy. The old Taoist smiled and said, this layman is trying to save the lives of our master and disciple. Ah. The little Taoist priest exclaimed. He was puzzled. Isn't it just a little bug? How can it save the life of his master? When Su Chen heard what the old Taoist said, he nodded slightly in his heart. This old Taoist priest really understood what happened. The old Taoist priest looked doting and glanced at the little Taoist priest King Su. Do you know that with the cultivation of this layman, if he wants to kill the goo worm, it will be just a snap of a finger? Is he so powerful? The little Taoist priest looked at Su Chen with disbelief. The layman in front of him didn't look much older than himself. The old Taoist priest continued, but the difference between killing the poisonous insect and not killing it is really huge. If he really kills the poisonous insect, your master, will be exhausted. But this lay Buddhist used special means to temporarily kill my life for a moment and deceive the poisonous insect. And this lay Buddhist took advantage of this moment to seal the poisonous insect and lead it out. The young Taoist priest King Su was shocked. He didn't expect that this simple treatment would have so many tricks. Thank you, lay Buddhist. The young Taoist priest King Su saluted Su Chen quickly. Su Chen smiled and waved his hand slightly. Then, Su Chen looked at the old Taoist priest. Master, the poison in your body has just been removed. Let me help you regulate it. As he spoke, he took out the golden needle of the medical saint again. Then I'll trouble you, lay Buddhist. The old Taoist priest nodded slightly. Now the poison has been removed, but the situation in the body is not optimistic. Su Chen didn't waste words. The next second, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The golden needles in his hand were like needles in a rainstorm, piercing the acupuncture points on the old Taoist's body. As the golden needles pierced the old Taoist's acupuncture points, the tails of the golden needles trembled slightly, constantly stimulating the old Taoist's various acupuncture points. Su Chen's treatment did not stop. He gently flicked his palm on the golden needles. Suddenly, a long life energy flowed into the old Taoist's body along the golden needles. Before, because the long life energy was too precious, Su Chen was not convenient to expose it in front of the masters of the god realm. Even if he wanted to use it, he would rub it into the pills in a hidden place. But now, Su Chen has transformed into a spirit god by combining yin and yang gods, becoming a spiritual power immortal master. He can already use his spiritual power to cover up the breath of long life energy. Although the old Taoist has a high level of cultivation, he is old. Even if he has reached the god realm, it is unknown how long his lifespan can last. And now, under the nourishment of Su Chen's long life energy, the old Taoist's face gradually became ruddy. The nearly dried up body actually felt like it was rejuvenated. Master, you have lost several wrinkles. King Su stuttered as he spoke, his eyes full of horror. Although the old Taoist couldn't see the changes on his face, he could still sense the condition of his body. He was also shocked in his heart. What kind of magical method did this young man in front of him use to make him feel like a dead tree coming back to life? Su Chen treated him for a while and slowly withdrew the needles. Looking at the old Taoist again, he saw that his hair was full of silver hair, which had turned a little black. The whole person's spirit and energy had also changed, as if he was 10 or 20 years younger. Layman. Old Taoist. The old Taoist was very excited. Master, don't mind. Su Chen smiled and said, Master, you told me what I wanted to know, and it's reasonable for me to help you heal your injuries. The old Taoist was full of gratitude. He hesitated for a moment and said, Layman, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Su Chen smiled. Master, please say it. First update. Chapter 792. Gift from the Taoist priest. Su Chen smiled. He had guessed that the old Taoist priest would probably advise him not to provoke those people. Sure enough, the old Taoist priest said, Master, although you are very powerful, that group of people is very powerful. It would be best if we can avoid making enemies. Su Chen smiled and said, Thank you for your kindness, but I have made up my mind. Didn't he come to Kingsang Mountain just to cause trouble for the Liu family? The Liu family used such a rough method to attack the Zhou catering group, which was actually a warning to Su Chen. If Su Chen didn't come to them, the Liu family would naturally use more extreme methods. Su Chen didn't like things not being under his control. So, he came. The old Taoist priest looked worried. Su Chen smiled and comforted. Master, please rest assured, I'm not alone. Hearing this, the old Taoist priest felt much more at ease. In this case, I will no longer dissuade you. However, I want to give you something. If you encounter an unexpected situation, you may be able to use it. The old Taoist priest said. The old Taoist priest slowly stood up from the mat. Then, he tore open the mat and took out a yellowed parchment from it with a look of reluctance. Su Chen was slightly startled and a little curious. It was hidden so carefully. What kind of treasure could it be? Layman, this is the formation built by the ancestors of Kingsang Mountain. If you are defeated, maybe you can use this formation to trap the enemy. As he spoke, the old Taoist priest handed the parchment roll to Su Chen. Hearing this, Su Chen waved his hands repeatedly. Master, you are kind. I appreciate it. However, this is the hard work of our ancestors in Kingsang Mountain. I dare not accept it. The old Taoist smiled. Layman, please don't refuse. If you hadn't saved me today, my disciples and I might have died soon. In this way, the Taoist lineage of my Kingsang temple would also be cut off. You saved the lives of my master and disciple, and saved the Taoist lineage of our Kingsang temple. This is what we should do. In addition, although this formation is not weak, it can only trap the enemy for a while. If not for this, I, the old Taoist, would have trapped them long ago. You should accept it. The old Taoist insisted. Seeing this, Su Chen had to bow his hands. In this case, I will be disrespectful to refuse. Thank you, Master. He reached out to take the parchment scroll. After opening it, Su Chen was stunned when he saw the formation diagram on the parchment scroll. He was proficient in formations, but this formation diagram was quite unfamiliar. However, Su Chen could tell at a glance that the formation on the parchment scroll was actually very complex and advanced. Just a glance at it showed that it was not weaker than the 7th level formation, and might even be higher. Even with Su Chen's ability, he couldn't just arrange it casually. This Kingsang Mountain ancestor was indeed extraordinary. Su Chen was just about to study it in detail. Suddenly, Su Chen's face changed slightly. His mental power sensed several powerful auras approaching. Su Chen couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. The person he was waiting for finally came. Su Chen has never been an arrogant person. After learning the location of the Liu family from the Dan group, he had already sent a message to Zhang Longhu and others. Only when they arrived would Su Chen officially attack the Liu family's Divine Realm strongman. Master, my friend is here. I'll take my leave now. Su Chen bowed and said goodbye. Then, he took the parchment scroll that he had not yet fully understood and walked out of the inner courtyard of Kingsang Temple. Not long after Su Chen came out, he saw Zhang Longhu's figure. What surprised Su Chen was that Meng Diqiu was also following Zhang Longhu, which made Su Chen a little surprised. Zhang Longhu and Meng Diqiu had just stood still. Uncle Master. After a low call, another figure followed closely. It was Zhang Taian, the contemporary Xianqi of Zhou Wanqiu and mansion in Xianqi Mountain. Daoist Master Zhang, you are here too. Su Chen smiled and nodded. Fighting side by side in Changyang Mountain made the relationship between the two people closer. The next second, another arrogant voice came. Brother, why didn't you call me for the fight? It was Cheng Xianzhen. Behind him, there was a little tail. It was Cheng Yuheng. Chen. As soon as Cheng Yuheng saw Su Chen, she trotted over. She pulled Su Chen's sleeve tightly, like a shy little girl who had just met a stranger. Su Chen sighed slightly. This Cheng Xianzhen was a bit messy, and he even brought Cheng Yuheng with him. But since the person was here, he couldn't say anything. As these people appeared, several more auras approached. However, those auras did not show up. Su Chen bowed to these auras from a distance. One of the auras was Li Changfeng, the chief of the Dongzhou Tiger Guard. Su Chen only said something to Qin Qingmei, but he didn't expect that even Li Changfeng would come in person. This was a bit beyond Su Chen's expectations. The other aura was particularly familiar. It was Qin Qingmei. She was also hiding in the dark. If it was not necessary, she might not take action. There was another aura that surprised Su Chen. It was Zhang Jinqiu. Su Chen didn't notify her, but he didn't expect her to come. For a moment, Su Chen couldn't help but feel more confident. With such a lineup, even a family in Shangjing like the Liu family would have to drink a pot. Feeling the aura of everyone, Su Chen was very moved. Except for Meng Diqiu, everyone else was considered his die-hard camp. Needless to say, Zhang Longhu had helped many times. And Cheng Xianzhen, although maverick, was also very close to him. Cheng Yuheng. Well, there's nothing to say about this girl. The relationship between Qin Qingmei, Zhang Jinqiu and Su Chen can be regarded as close friends. As for Li Changfeng, although he has secrets, he is also an upright person and has spoken up for himself. Second update. Chapter 793, Strong Enemies. At this moment, Su Chen was moved. Although there were many enemies, he also had many allies. Thank you, everyone. Su Chen bowed to everyone. Everyone bowed their hands. Most of these people had received Su Chen's favor. With such a strong lineup, Su Chen's worries faded completely. No matter how strong the Shangjing Liu family is, can they still compete with the strong men in the entire Dongzhou province? The people who came this time were all strong men in the god realm of Dongzhou province. What's more, there are foreign aides such as Cheng Xianzhen and Zhang Taian. Cheng Xianzhen is the 7th master of the Cheng family. Although he is not the head of the family, he has a lot of say in the Cheng family. In addition, there is Cheng Yuheng. She is the pride of the Cheng family and the future of the Cheng family. As for Zhang Taian, he is the Xianqi of Zhou Wanqiu and mansion in Xianqi Mountain. He alone can represent Xianqi Mountain. Liu family, are you ready? Su Chen whispered in his heart. Then, he led people to the small courtyard on the top of the mountain. The small courtyard with a single door and a single household was originally an asset of Kingsang Temple. Now, the Kingsang Mountain courtyard has been occupied by the Liu family. Su Chen also introduced to everyone what the Liu family did in Kingsang Temple, and the powerful people were immediately indignant. This Liu family is really arrogant and domineering. Coming to Dongzhou province, they actually acted like this. Even Kingsang Temple, which has powerful people in the god realm, was bullied like this, and they really didn't take the powerful people in Dongzhou province seriously. Zhang Taian and Cheng Xiansun are not from Dongzhou province, so it is easier to accept. But Zhang Long, whose face was immediately furious. This is in Dongzhou territory. The Liu family's behavior is really a contempt for the entire Dongzhou province. Even Meng Diqiu, a fence sitter, looked a little ugly. Humph. A cold snort came from not far away. It was King Mui and Zhang Jinqiu who had been hiding in the dark. The two of them were also very dissatisfied with the Liu family's arrogant and domineering style. Everyone was a powerful person in the god realm, and was very fast. In the blink of an eye, everyone arrived at the gate of the small courtyard on the top of the mountain. At this moment, the gate of the courtyard was closed tightly, and it seemed that there was no one inside. Before Su Chen could make any move, Zhang Longhu shouted loudly, "Liu, come out and die." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his fist and punched the gate. Zhang Longhu's punch exploded with his vitality. Boom. The gate, which was made of extremely thick materials, instantly broke into pieces. "Su Chen, you are finally here." An elegant voice came. Then, more than 10 powerful gods appeared. More than 10 powerful gods, each with a mighty aura like the sea. Some of them Su Chen had dealt with, but most of them had never seen. These people were like more than 10 gods of war descending from the sky. One by one, their aura burst out, with terrifying murderous intent in their eyes. Seeing these people, Su Chen frowned slightly. Before, he only heard the old Taoist priest say that Liu Shaoan had more than 10 masters of the god realm. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he suddenly felt a sense of pressure. However, Su Chen was still full of fighting spirit. He turned his head and looked at the elegant young man who was protected by more than a dozen powerful gods. "Are you Liu Shaoan?" Su Chen asked. "I'm Liu Shaoan, and I have long heard of your great name. That's why I used some tricks to invite you over. Fortunately, you are smart and didn't make me waste my time." The elegant young man smiled. He looked at Su Chen as if he was looking at prey. "It's you. Go to hell." Su Chen shouted. Then, he stepped on his foot and punched Liu Shaoan. Compared with other people in the Liu family, Su Chen had the strongest killing intention towards Liu Shaoan. This person was not good at fighting, but he was the think tank of the Liu family. A Liu family that only knew how to fight and kill was not terrible. In fact, if the Liu family was full of trash like Liu Shaohong, it would be better. But since there are many powerful gods in charge, and there is also a sinister think tank like Liu Shaoan, it would be disgusting. The deadly feud has been concluded, and Su Chen is too lazy to talk nonsense with him. "Don't hurt Liu Shao." A roar came. A middle-aged man whom Su Chen had never seen before flashed in front of Liu Shaoan, looking for death. Su Chen shouted coldly. He knew the power of this punch very well. Su Chen was in the physical body of the heavenly man realm. Although this punch did not have the 9 extremes power amplification, it was not something that an ordinary god realm strongman could resist. Although the god realm strongmen were all very powerful, they had different focuses. The physical strength of the god realm strongmen who cultivated their vitality was definitely not as strong as that of the martial Dao heavenly man. But the middle-aged man in front of him was so arrogant. He actually wanted to withstand his punch with his physical body. Bang! Su Chen's punch hit the middle-aged man hard. Boom! With a loud bang, Su Chen felt as if he was hitting a mountain of meat. The next second, a strong force burst out from the middle-aged man's body. Swish! Su Chen felt a huge force coming and immediately retreated. Everyone didn't know what happened at all. They only saw Su Chen flash forward, punch the middle-aged man, and then quickly retreat. However, Su Chen's pupils shrank slightly, with a bit of surprise on his face. This middle-aged man actually resisted his full strength attack with his physical body. Moreover, he could even use the power of his physical body to counterattack himself. Middle stage of the heavenly man realm. Su Chen's face was slightly gloomy. Unexpectedly, a random master of the divine realm from the Liu family turned out to have a physical body of the middle stage of the heavenly man realm. Su Chen himself is a physical body of the heavenly man realm. He almost used up all the spiritual medicines he had accumulated to reach this level of physical training. This shows the difficulty of physical training. However, the middle-aged man of the Liu family in front of him turned out to have a physical body of the middle stage of the divine realm. The opponent's physical strength was even stronger than his own. Su Chen's heart suddenly became more serious. This action might not be too easy. The third update is here. There will be 3 updates today for the time being. At least 4 updates tomorrow, or maybe more. The last chapter was blocked, and it should be released now. Brothers who haven't read it can reread the last chapter. Thank you for your support. Good night. Chapter 794 Defensive Magic Weapon. In martial arts training, one step leads to another level. The gap between each small realm is huge. Even for a monster like Su Chen, it is not easy to fight against a higher level. Hiss. On the side, Meng Qiu couldn't help but take a breath. He was even secretly beating his drum in his heart. Most of the previous fighting spirit had dissipated at this time. Although Zhang Lang who didn't speak, his face didn't look very good. This was just a collision, and the gap between the two sides was separated. There are indeed many powerful gods on their side. With such a Linup, if they attack other forces, they will be able to crush them in 9 out of 10 cases. Even a force like Jinglin Villa, with their Linup today, has a great chance to be unstoppable and hit Huanglang. There are several powerful gods and monsters like Su Chen. In the entire Dongzhou province, there is no force that can be a match for them. However, now, they are facing the Liu family from Shangjing. The other party sent out a random person, and he was actually in the middle stage of the body refining god realm. The horror of the Liu family is obvious. However, although Su Chen was shocked, he still had a very confident smile on his face. He looked at the middle-aged man and said lightly, "You have some strength, but you can't stop me." The middle-aged man in the middle stage of the physical body of the heavenly man realm is indeed not weak. But Su Chen is not only in the physical body of the heavenly man realm. He is also a spiritual immortal master. Withering and flourishing slash. Su Chen shouted in his heart. The next second, his spirit guarded the sea of consciousness, and a terrifying spiritual power instantly condensed into a long sword and slashed towards Liu Shaoan. If you look closely, this spiritual power long sword is actually very similar to the spiritual spirit sword of the withered face monk before. After Su Chen and the withered face monk fought, he wanted to imitate it. Now, it is quite similar. Withering and flourishing slash can destroy everything. Especially the meaning of half withering and half flourishing in it is even more elusive, and even resisting does not know where to start. This knife, fast and fast, slashed directly towards Liu Shaoan. The middle-aged man's face suddenly changed. Although he is a physical body in the middle stage of the divine realm, he is not a spiritual immortal master. Facing Su Chen's spiritual longsword, he had no way to stop it. Hiss. The spiritual longsword, as if with a sound of breaking through the air, chopped towards Liu Shaoan in the blink of an eye. However, at this moment, a purple light flashed on Liu Shaoan. Puff. Under the cover of the purple light, Su Chen's spiritual attack disappeared like a drop in the ocean. Su Chen's face changed slightly. 2 words appeared in his mind. Magical weapon. Liu Shaoan actually carried a magic weapon to defend against spiritual attacks. Su Chen sighed in his heart. The Liu family really valued Liu Shaoan and equipped him with a defensive magic weapon. You know, Su Chen had never seen many magic weapons in the entire Dongzhou. Later, it was only after he saved Cheng Yuheng that Cheng Shai and Feng gave him the medical saint golden needle. The preciousness of the magic weapon is hard to come by. Even most of the powerful people in the god realm are not qualified to own it. Su Chen thought that Liu Shaoan was difficult to kill, and there must be many powerful people around him. But the Liu family equipped him with a defensive magic weapon, which was a bit surprising to Su Chen. Speaking of which, Su Chen underestimated Liu Shaoan's status in the Liu family. Liu Shaoan is indeed an ordinary person, but his status and role are probably far superior to the Liu family's divine realm masters. Otherwise, how could the Liu family, even the eldest son, obey the orders of an ordinary person like him? At this time, Meng Qiu's eyes flickered. He stammered, or let's retreat. Meng Qiu, what the hell are you talking about? Zhang Lang who shouted angrily. He was afraid before the battle, and he was really a coward. Cheng Xianxin had purple hair and had changed it to an afro. He glanced at Meng Diqiu and said sarcastically, "If Mr. Meng is afraid of death, just leave on your own, but don't ruin our momentum." There was a hint of disdain in his eyes. That's not possible. We live together and die together," Meng Diqiu said weakly. The reason why he changed his mind was because Su Chen was very close to the Cheng family. At this time, he naturally did not dare to refute Cheng Xianxin. "That sounds like a human word." Zhang Long, who could not help but snort coldly. He had always been a little unhappy with Meng Diqiu. Just as Meng Diqiu and the others were whispering, the scene in the battle changed slightly. "You have actually broken through to the spiritual power, immortal master." After the spiritual power magic weapon blocked Su Chen's spiritual power attack, Liu Shaoan looked at Su Chen with a little surprise. "Fortunately, I'm fully prepared, otherwise, I might really fall into your trap." Liu Shaoan's eyes were gloomy. He said coldly, "Su Chen, you have already made a move twice. Now, you also try the methods of my Liu family masters." As soon as the voice fell, Liu Shaoan winked at the side. The next second, a middle-aged man with a sword on his waist stepped out of the line. He was tall and slender, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. The sword in his hand was an extraordinary product at first glance. "Liu, the guest of the Liu family, please give me some advice." The middle-aged swordsman was quite polite and did not attack by surprise. "Uncle Master, I will fight him." Zhang Tian spoke directly before Su Chen moved. Su Chen nodded slightly. "Be careful, don't rush." The middle-aged swordsman was quite powerful, but he was not Zhang Tian's opponent. "Zhang Tian of Xianqi Mountain, please give me some advice." Zhang Tian stepped out of the line, bowed, and stood in front of several people calmly. "One sword light chills the 19 continents. Taoist friends, be careful," the middle-aged swordsman shouted. Then, he thrust out with a sword. In an instant, a sword light that seemed to be extremely sharp came quickly. At this moment, the eyes of everyone in Su Chen's camp condensed slightly. Liu's sword, with an indomitable momentum, seemed to kill all the enemies in the world. The terrifying sword energy and the sword light all over the sky seemed to open up a world belonging to the sword. In the whole world, only the sword intent was lingering. It was obvious that Liu had made great achievements in the way of the sword. This sharp sword light seemed to come from the sword immortal in the sky. Wherever the sword pointed, there were only chickens and dogs. Wherever the sword light passed, no grass would grow. Wherever the sword energy was, everything would turn into nutrients for the way of the sword. The terrifying sword light, like a surging tide, flooded towards Zhang Tian. First update. Chapter 795. Sword Intent. Facing Liu's sharp sword moves, Zhang Tian looked calm. He shouted softly, "Keep your heart. Concentrate. The Heavenly Master is on patrol, and the heavens retreat." The next second, Zhang Tian flicked the whisk in his hand at the sword light. Compared with Liu's sharp sword attack, Zhang Tian's move did not make much noise. In fact, it looked just slow. However, Zhang Tian's move was not weak. In an instant, Liu's sharp sword move was like being trapped in a quagmire, turning from extreme movement to extreme stillness. The overwhelming sword light seemed to encounter a snowy mountain and the scorching sun, and quickly retreated. Liu's face changed. He clearly felt that he had fallen into the control of Zhang Tian's moves. "Humph." Liu snorted coldly and withdrew his moves. He retreated violently and changed his moves again. He looked solemn, and his face was carefree and joyless, like a stone statue. But the long sword in his hand was still sharp. Two swords to dispel the sorrow of eternity. This time, Liu actually slashed out two swords in succession. These two swords seemed less powerful than before. But everyone in the field was a master of the divine realm, so how could they not tell the horror of this move? The middle-aged swordsman's first move was powerful, but it could still be easily broken by a true master. But this move was completely different. Liu's two swords seemed to be able to destroy people's emotions. At this moment, everyone felt that their 7 emotions and 6 desires seemed to have disappeared. Although the 7 emotions and 6 desires are shackles in cultivation, they are also the driving force for many strong people to become stronger. If the 7 emotions and 6 desires disappear, I'm afraid that not only will they destroy their emotions and nature, but they may also give up their will to die and give up resistance. And this is exactly the horror of Cuiu's move. Attacking from the emotions, it is as easy to kill the enemy as cutting melons and vegetables. What a powerful move. I'm watching here, and I'm actually affected. Zhang Longhu sighed. He turned to look at Su Chen and asked, Mr. Su, is it okay for Taoist Zhang to fight against this sword head on? Su Chen said lightly, don't worry. Taoist Zhang has practiced Taoism for many years, and his Tao heart will not be affected so easily. Zhang Longhu was relieved. He looked up at the scene. The scene was just as Su Chen said. There was no panic on Zhang Taiyan's face. The whole person was like an ancient well, and was not affected by the other party at all. Zhang Taiyan is not an ordinary god-level strongman. He came from Zhou Wanqiu mansion of Xianqi Mountain, and he is also the contemporary Xianqi of Zhou Wanqiu mansion of Xianqi Mountain. No one can match his stability. 5 generations under one roof. Xianqi wishes you a happy birthday. Zhang Taiyan shouted, and then took action. He flicked his whisk, and the whole person was like a moral cultivator in the sky. The Taoist tradition of Xianqi Dao is different from that of other Taoist monks. Xianqi Dao can marry and have children, and there are not many restrictions on the 7 emotions and 6 desires. 5 generations living under one roof is a small happiness for an ordinary family. The situation of having descendants sitting on one's lap makes people feel attached to life. And the birthday celebration of the Heavenly Master is even more extraordinary. Birthday celebration is a very festive thing. Zhang Taiyan used this move, which made people seem to see the gods and Buddhas appearing in the sky, and the scene was full of joy. In an instant, Cuiu's artistic conception was completely broken. Bang, bang, bang. Cuiu retreated several steps. His face was uncertain. Outside the field, those who were affected by his sword suddenly came back to their senses. They were sweating profusely. That was close. Meng Diqiu couldn't help but wipe his cold sweat. Speaking of which, he was the one with the worst philosophies among the people, and he was almost brought into the mood. If Cuiu attacked him, he might be affected by his emotions at the first sight, and then he could be seriously injured. Zhang Longhu glanced at Meng Diqiu with disdain and snorted coldly, HMPH. I knew that you must be not good enough. Meng Diqiu smiled awkwardly and said nothing. Although Zhang Longhu was also affected, he has always been determined. In addition, Cuiu did not attack him, so Zhang Longhu was not affected too much. Looking at the side, Cheng Xianzhen was even more laughing. He was carefree to begin with, and he was also a spiritual power master, so it was impossible for him to be affected. Cheng Yuhang's temperament now is like a 7 or 8-year-old child. The temperament is the most unpredictable, and this has no effect on her at all. And Su Chen, of course, is no problem. On the other hand, many people in the Liu family masters were affected emotionally. If Zhang Taiyan had not broken Cuiu's move, I'm afraid they would have had a hard time coming back to their senses. Dao are so profound. I admire you. The middle-aged swordsman Cuiu bowed and clasped his fists. Then, his expression became serious and he continued, Dao, please take my third move. 3 swords to kill the gods and ascend to the sky. The voice of the middle-aged swordsman came again. This move seemed to be his ultimate skill. Sure enough, as soon as the move was made, the whole sky seemed to dim. It was as if there was a fierce god descending from the sky, slaughtering all living beings with boiling anger. At this moment, a sword light rose against the sky, and the fierce god became more and more fierce, but in the end he could not resist this terrifying sword light. The sword light fell. The fierce god was beheaded. This move can kill gods. Although these pictures are not real. But under the influence of Cuiu's sword intention, everyone has constructed such a scene in their minds. At this time, Zhang Taiyan seemed to have become the terrifying fierce god. This sword that killed the god suddenly slashed towards Zhang Taiyan. Faced with such a terrifying move, Zhang Taiyan's face became solemn. It's not that he is not strong enough, but this move is full of unstoppable momentum. How can a mortal body kill the fierce god without giving his all? Blessings from the Heavenly Master, the world is peaceful. Zhang Taiyan shouted in a low voice, and also made a move without reservation. Compared to mortals who defy the will of heaven and kill gods, it is truly more difficult to appease people's hearts. Suddenly, it seemed as if there was a phantom of a god in heaven, sprinkling a ray of starlight, falling on everyone. At this moment, the hostility in everyone's heart gradually dissipated, no longer like before. Before, facing the fierce god who seemed to want to destroy the world, everyone's heart was full of hostility, and they wanted to ascend to the sky and kill it. But Zhang Tai'an used gentle means to resolve the hostility in his heart, making the whole world peaceful and happy. Snap! A shattering sound was heard. The sword intent created by Su collapsed in an instant. He flew back. Su stood with his sword, his face pale. I lost. Second update. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 796 Master and Dog. The several rounds between Su and Zhang Tai'an shocked everyone in the field. Whether it was the sword intent of the middle-aged swordsman Su or the means of breaking Zhang Tai'an, they were beyond most of the gods present. They were also gods, and the gods with inheritance had a combat power far beyond that of ordinary casual cultivators. Su leaned on his sword and looked at Zhang Tai'an. The Taoist priest is really amazing. I lost. At this time, he seemed to be exhausted. The previous two moves, one sword light chills the 19 states, and two swords eliminate eternal sorrow, were still within his control. But the last move, three sword slash gods and ascend to the heavenly palace, was a fusion of spirit, energy, and spirit, and the last desperate attack. He used all his strength to perform this move, and he didn't fall in the end. This was because Su's foundation was deep enough. Thank you for letting me. Zhang Tai'an bowed. He turned around and retreated from the battlefield, standing beside Su Chen calmly. However, Su Chen was keenly aware that Zhang Tai'an was not as relaxed as he appeared to be at this moment, and his energy consumption was also not small. Master Zhang, take it and rest for a while. Su Chen took out a pill and handed it to Zhang Tai'an. Thank you, Uncle Master. Zhang Tai'an nodded slightly. He did not say anything polite and swallowed the pill given by Su Chen. Zhang Tai'an consumed too much energy, and Su almost lost his fighting power. Liu Shaoyan's face was gloomy. His eyes were gloomy, and he muttered to himself, Zhang Tai'an, Xianxi Mountain. At this time, Su Chen turned his head and looked at Liu Shaoyan. Mr. Liu, what do you want to do next? How about you stop being a coward, and let's try it together. Liu Shaoyan's face rose. At this time, a guest of the Liu family stood up. He stared at Su Chen and snorted coldly, you are so bold, relying on the support of Xianxi Mountain Zuaniuan Mansion, you dare to be rude to young Master Liu. Su Chen glanced at him and said contemptuously, the master is talking, the dog should just get out of the way. You. The guest of the Liu family's face turned green and red, and his heart was boiling with anger. Young Master Liu, I'm willing to teach this kid a lesson. The guest clasped his fists towards Liu Shaoyan, and murderous intent burst out in his eyes. Go. Don't lose face for my Liu family. Liu Shaoyan nodded slightly, and his eyes became a little more solemn than before. He thought that Su Chen was just a casual cultivator with decent strength. Now it seems that the backer behind this kid is not simple. No wonder the Liu family's repeated attacks were all resolved by this kid. Boy, come out and die. The guest stepped out, the fierce light in his eyes surged, and the fierce murderous intent almost condensed into substance. Before Su Chen moved, a figure stepped out from the side. Brother, leave this guy to me, let me play with him too. Cheng Xianxin looked at Su Chen with a smile, his fighting spirit high. Be careful. Su Chen nodded. Cheng Xianxin chuckled, come on. Just watch me, I won't beat the shit out of him, he's tight. As he spoke, he looked at the other party with a provocative look on his face. You're looking for death. The guest of the Liu family was furious. He didn't know Cheng Xianxin, he just looked at him with the big hair. He didn't look like a serious person. Because of this, he was even more angry. If the other party was a strong man, it would be fine to say some harsh words. You are a non-mainstream guy with a big hair. How dare you say such nonsense? At this time, a rough voice sounded. Old demo, be careful. He is the 7th son of the Cheng family. Don't underestimate him. The owner of the voice was Liu Yuanwu and the Liu family formation. Last time, in the Cheng family villa, he had fought with Cheng Xianzhen once and suffered a small loss. Liu Yuanwu was afraid that Lao Mo would be careless, so he hurriedly reminded him. What the hell is Cheng Qi? He is not Cheng Lao. Does he really think that he can go against the heavens just because he has the surname Cheng? Lao Mo sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, Lao Mo punched out directly. This punch was thrown, and the violent vitality surged. The endless power was even stronger than that of an ordinary mid-stage god. With some strength, no wonder you dare to brag. Cheng Xianzhen sneered. The next second, he took out a compass, which was the extremely cold glass cover. This extremely cold glass cover is not an ordinary magic weapon, and it has great growth potential. If it is in the Feng Shui formation, it can continuously improve the grade. And the Cheng family is good at Feng Shui formation. Such a magic weapon, in the hands of Cheng Xianzhen, can naturally double the power that can be exerted. Facing Lao Mo's attack, Cheng Xianzhen pinched the formula with one hand. In an instant, a bubble-like protective cover appeared on the compass, shining brightly in the sun. Lao Mo's fist, with a mighty force, slammed into the colorful protective shield. Seeing this scene, many members of the Liu family sneered in their hearts. The strong man in the god realm hit with all his strength, and the steel plate and stone wall could not stop it. This foam-like protective shield would probably be destroyed in an instant. Bang! Lao Mo's fist, carrying a huge amount of vitality, slammed into the protective shield fiercely. Boom! A terrifying loud noise exploded. The sneering Liu family members froze on their faces. Their eyes widened, and they stared at the field. Lao Mo's fist pressed hard on the protective shield, but the protective shield did not break directly. Crunch. The protective shield seemed unable to resist, and slowly sank inward. On its surface, the phantoms of mountains and peaks flashed one after another, giving people a feeling of being unfathomable. Even so, the guests of the Liu family were still full of confidence in Lao Mo. In their opinion, the phantoms of mountains and peaks were just bluffing. This was a full-strength attack from a strong man in the middle stage of the god realm. How long can this mere protective shield last? Seeing the shaky shadow on the protective shield, the Liu family members became more and more confident. The 7th master of the Cheng family is just like that. Get out of here. Cheng Xianzhen shouted. He saw his finger gestures changing rapidly. In an instant, the shadow on the protective shield changed. A huge wave surged and rushed towards Lao Mo, who had not yet retracted his fist. Bang! The sunken shadow of the light curtain recovered instantly and directly rebounded Lao Mo's power. The more fierce Lao Mo's punch was, the more terrifying the rebound was. In an instant. Puff! Lao Mo spurted out a mouthful of blood. He was like an ordinary person hit by a train, and the whole person flew backwards. Several Liu family strongmen hurriedly reached out to catch him. As a result, he was taken several meters away by Lao Mo. Hiss. A sound of sucking in cold air came, and the faces of the Liu family strongmen were full of horror. The third update. Chapter 797. I'm invincible. Old Demo is very strong. Even among the guests of the Liu family, he can be ranked among the best. But now, he was defeated by Cheng Lao Qi in one move. How strong is Cheng Xianzhen? The frightened eyes of the Liu family made Cheng Xianzhen feel very comfortable. Ha ha ha. Under the whole world, I'm invincible. Come on. I want to beat 10 of them. Cheng Xianzhen laughed. He held the extremely cold glass cover in his hand, put on a very second-year posture, and looked at the Liu family with a provocative face. Suddenly, there was silence in the field. Silence. You can hear a pin drop. Both the enemy and us were silent. The people in Su Chen's camp also twitched at the corners of their mouths. The strong men of the Liu family were even more weird. Cheng Xianzhen is indeed very strong, but this personality is too fucking second year, right? Su Chen even had the urge to cover his face. This is a life and death battle. Do you have to be so second year? Fortunately, Cheng Xianfeng was not there, otherwise he could dig out a 3-bedroom and 1 living room house with his feet. You're going to beat 10 of them. Do you think this is a movie? Compared to the embarrassment on Su Chen's face, Liu Shaoan's face was a little gloomy. He has lived in Beijing for a long time, so he has naturally heard of this unruly guy from the Cheng family. Under normal circumstances, when he saw Cheng Xiansun, he might have to bow and clasp his fists and politely call him 7th master. But now, the two sides are in a hostile relationship, and he just wants to take this guy down as soon as possible. Although the Liu family is powerful, there is still some gap compared to the Cheng family. It is better not to offend if you can. Now, Cheng Xiansun stands in Su Chen's camp, and Liu Shaoan can only send someone to take him down. Just now, when Lao Mo made a move, Liu Shaoan did not stop him, just to see how much weight Cheng Xiansun had. The result was not unexpected. The Cheng family is worthy of being called the #1 Feng Shui family. Even the mere Cheng Laoqi has such amazing strength. Who else? Cheng Xiansun stood in the field, his face full of smugness, and he put on a posture of who else but me. Zhou, stop playing around and fight properly. Su Chen couldn't help but speak out. He really couldn't stand this idiot. Big brother, just watch. As for these little bastards from the Liu family, I'll beat 1 if they come 1, and I'll beat 2 if they come 2. Cheng Xiansun shouted carelessly. Silence, silence again. Su Chen didn't know what to say. Liu Shaoan's face twitched slightly. Young Master Liu, I heard that the Cheng family in Shangjing is the #1 family of Feng Shui formations. I wonder if you can let me have a try? At this time, a skinny old man bowed his hands. Liu Shaoan's face softened a little. He advised, Old Master Yan, you are highly respected. Why do you have to compete with this unscrupulous guy? The skinny old man stroked his beard and said, Young Master Liu, I have studied formations for many years, and the thing I want most is to fight with a Feng Shui formation family like the Cheng family. Seeing that Old Master Yan insisted, Liu Shaoan could only nod slightly. That's good. But old Yan must not be careless. This man is unfathomable. If there is danger, you must protect yourself. Don't worry, young Master Liu. I want to live a few more years. The skinny old man nodded with a smile. He touched his long white beard and entered the center of the battlefield. This is a bit troublesome. Before the enemy and us started, Zhang Tian spoke solemnly. Zhang Long asked curiously, Master Zhang, where is this old Yan? Master Zhang, you don't know. Zhang Tian smiled bitterly and said, this old Yan once went to Xianqi Mountain and defeated the previous generation of Xianqi with formations. Hiss. Zhang Long took a breath of cold air. Xianqi Mountain Zuaniuan Mansion is also proficient in formations. Even Su Chen was a little surprised. He knew very well how accomplished Zhang Tian was in formations, and the previous generation of Xianqi would definitely not be weak. But this skinny old man could actually defeat the previous generation of Xianqi in formations. The old man's attainments in formations can be imagined. 7th Master Cheng is polite. I, Yan Maohua, have studied the art of formation for many years and rarely meet an opponent. I hope that 7th Master can teach me. The skinny old man laughed coldly. Old Yan, you are too polite. Please give me some advice. Even though Cheng Xiansun was a man of no scruples, he couldn't help but clasp his fists slightly, his eyes extremely solemn. 7th Master, please. The skinny old man made a gesture of invitation. It seemed that he had already defeated Cheng Xiansun and had full confidence in himself. Old Yan, I'm sorry. Cheng Xiansun stopped playing tricks. Facing such a terrifying senior in the art of formation, he couldn't help but restrain his mind. As soon as the voice fell on the extremely cold-colored glass cover in Cheng Xiansun's hand, the phantoms of mountains and peaks quickly flowed. He had already secretly pinched the magic formula. Seeing Cheng Xiansun so cautious, Su Chen couldn't help but secretly raise his heart. This old Yan is really intimidating. Just after Cheng Xiansun used the spell to activate the extremely cold glass cover, a strange-looking Sinan appeared in Yan Maohua's hand. The compass has the function of geomancy, and Sinan is older than the compass. Sinan can also be used to find geomancy and find dragon points. Compared with the common compass, Sinan is now extremely rare. And there are even fewer people who can use it easily, like rare birds and unicorn horns. Ordinary people can use the compass after a little learning. Even many ordinary people who have not even touched the formation can use the compass to cheat. But Sinan is different. Without sufficient formation cultivation, you don't even know how to use it, let alone use it freely in a battle scene. Formation up. Cheng Xianzhen shouted softly. A serious look rarely appeared on his face. Cheng Xianzhen kept pinching the spell in his hand, and the glass cover bloomed with precious light. If the ancestors of the Cheng family saw Cheng Xianzhen at this time, they would be very surprised. This slippery of the Cheng family finally began to behave properly. Set the north and south. Yang Maohe also shouted softly. He held the Sinan in one hand, and made hand gestures with the other. Buzz buzz buzz. The spoon on the Sinan began to turn non-stop. Outsiders saw this scene and were confused. They had no idea what the two were doing. They might even think that they were playing. Su Chen and Zhang Taiyan were both masters of formations. Seeing the battle between the two, they looked at each other and were secretly shocked. The battle between the two was too dangerous. The formation was established and destroyed in almost an instant. The fourth update is here. 4 updates first, and there will still be at least 4 updates tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Thank you for your support. Chapter 798, Akala. Cheng Xianzhen has the help of the extreme cold glaze cover, and his strength is undoubted. The speed of his formation made Su Chen shocked, and he could not help but look up to him. However, the skinny old man was even better than Cheng Xianzhen. Moreover, the Sinan in his hand was also extraordinary, and it also glowed with a strange treasure light. However, although the Sinan in the old man's hand was not bad, his foundation was not as good as the first Fengshu formation family. The grade of the Sinan was still slightly inferior to the extreme cold glazed cover. However, Yan Maohe's profound formation skills made up for this gap. Buzz, buzz, buzz. One after another, invisible forces condensed, formed, and dispersed beside the two people. Each of them set up a formation, and cracked the opponent's formation attack. The two sides fought back and forth. In the eyes of ordinary people, the two of them seemed to be standing in the field, like two clay puppets. But in fact, the battle between the two was extremely dangerous. This kind of formation battle is more dangerous than close combat. If you are not careful, the backlash you receive can even cause a mid-stage God Realm warrior to be seriously injured and on the verge of death. Cheng Xianzhen waved the compass, and the formations changed one after another. Flame formation, Earth trapping formation, Seal Yuan formation, Golden Evil formation. However, Yan Maohe was calm and composed, controlling the Sinan in his hand and countering every move. Each of his attacks hit the weak point of Cheng Xianzhen's formation. Cheng Xianzhen attacked again and again, but failed. This old guy is really something. Cheng Xianzhen's face no longer had a playful smile, but was full of solemnity. As a genius of the Fengshu Cheng family, Cheng Xianzhen is naturally not weak. If he encounters an ordinary strongman, he can easily suppress him. However, Yan Maohe's research on the formation is indeed amazing. In this kind of instant small formation competition, Cheng Xianzhen is still slightly inferior. For a formation master, the arrangement of a small formation can be formed and broken almost instantly. This kind of formation and breaking formation is a test of the foundation of the formation and the perception of the formation. If he fights with an ordinary formation master, with Cheng Xianzhen's attainments in the formation, he will definitely make the opponent flustered and defeat the opponent in a hurry. It's a pity. Old Yan is not an ordinary formation master, he is one of the best formation masters. If he continues to fight like this, Cheng Xianzhen will most likely be defeated. Therefore, Cheng Xianzhen decided to choose to arrange a more powerful formation to compete with Old Yan. With the extremely cold glass cover, Cheng Xianzhen's strength can be doubled, and Yan Maohe's Sinan grade is not as good as the extremely cold glass cover. With the increase and decrease of 1, the gap between the two sides will be evened. Do it when you think of it. The next second. Get up. Cheng Xianzhen swung his hand casually. Suddenly, the compass floated in front of his chest in an instant. Cheng Xianzhen moved his hands in a row and pinched the seal. A terrifying force secretly condensed and surged. Yang Maohua's face changed slightly. He has discovered that Cheng Xianzhen's move is not simple. Draw a dragon. Cheng Xianzhen shouted softly. In an instant, mysterious power surged, and a dragon suddenly emerged. The dragon was mighty and the momentum was amazing. The masters of the divine realm in the Liu family camp suddenly looked stern. They could see that Cheng Xianzhen's move was very terrifying. At this moment, Yang Maohua did not dare to wait any longer. Akalanatha. He spoke softly, holding the Sinan in one hand and pinching the strange formula with the other hand. As the voice fell, the formation he arranged also took shape. It was a bodhisattva. This bodhisattva was different from the compassionate appearance that was common in the past. He was seen with a fierce look in his eyes, holding the demon subduing pestle high, as if he wanted to suppress all the evil in the world. Even though this bodhisattva's appearance did not radiate any power, the angry look was enough to make people tremble with fear. Even Cheng Xianzhen's dragon form was a little inferior. For a while, all the laymen of the formation on both sides were amazed. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. It's not that they haven't seen formations before, but it's rare that a formation can take shape and even be so lifelike. After a moment of surprise, everyone in the Liu family camp breathed a sigh of relief. The dragon condensed by Cheng Xianzhen, although it was very intimidating, was only in shape, without any charm. However, the Akala Vidyaraja that Yang Maohua displayed in the formation had both form and spirit. The gap between the two sides was immediately clear. If we look at it from the surface, Cheng Xianzhen should still have no chance this time. Cheng Xianzhen was awed when he saw the Akala Vidyaraja statue of Yang Maohua. He knew that, if he didn't take it seriously, he might not be able to achieve success. The hidden dragon ascends to heaven. Cheng Xianzhen roared, his face becoming more solemn. He made another lightning move, grabbed the compass again, and used his other hand to make a gesture to urge it. Suddenly, a stream of light went straight to the dragon. Although the hidden dragon ascends to heaven is difficult to control, he had to try his best. At this time, the dragon was already quite charming. It was like a real prehistoric beast, with infinite power. Roar. A roar shook the 9 heavens. It seemed that the entire Dongzhou province was shrouded by the roar of the dragon. The masters of the Liu family were secretly shocked. This Cheng family is worthy of being called the first family of Fengshu formations. It is indeed a bit abnormal. They who don't understand formations can't help but yearn for the formation. Even the people on Su Chen's side couldn't help but admire it. Such a battle scene, even if it can't be determined quickly, is gorgeous enough. King Mei, who was hidden in the dark, clenched her fists excitedly at this time, as if she had become a master of formations. When she was in Changyang Mountain, she had roughly learned a little bit of the formation. Although she was not a master, she was better than a complete layman. This made King Mei feel that she might be able to achieve this kind of achievement in the formation one day. Just as King Mei was still fantasizing, on the battlefield, the two people's formations finally began to collide. Roar. Facing the roar of the dragon, Akala remained indifferent. The shadow of the dragon instantly rushed in front of Akala. The terrifying image of the bodhisattva sat in the sky, giving people a sense of sacred majesty. It was awe-inspiring without anger, which made people feel cold. However, the shadow of the dragon became more and more arrogant, as if it wanted to destroy the world. Just when everyone thought that Akala might be blown away by the dragon's tail, Akala finally moved. First update. Chapter 799 The Finishing Touch. I saw that Akala raised his hand instantly and held high the demon subduing pestle that was emitting precious light. Whoosh. The huge demon subduing pestle, like a giant peak falling from the sky, suddenly smashed towards the dragon with its fangs and claws. In an instant, everyone held their breath. Bang! A loud noise. The claws of the dragon collided fiercely with the demon subduing pestle. The next second, roar. A roaring sound. The phantom of the dragon was actually knocked away. In front of Akala's Dharma image, the attack formation arranged by Cheng Xianzhen was actually defeated in an instant. Cheng Xianzhen was a little dumbfounded. This old guy is too powerful, isn't he? Cheng Xianzhen asked himself. His attainments in formation are not bad. Even if he can't make it into the top 3 in the Cheng family in Shangjing, he must be in the top 10. As a result, he couldn't do anything with Yan Maohe. Old Yan is invincible. In the Liu family camp, the masters kept shouting. Cheng Xianxin looked ugly. His confidence in himself was almost shaken. Could it be that his attainments in the art of formations are really that bad? Looking at the grey and defeated look on Cheng Xianxin's face, Su Chen couldn't bear it. He couldn't help but remind him, Zhou, do you still remember the art of formations I taught you? Big brother. Cheng Xianxin was stunned. Then, Su Chen continued, Xiangxuan turns to Yao Guang, Xiangji turns to Kiang, Zhengxin turns to Yizhuan, Canli switches. Cheng Xianxin's eyes suddenly brightened. Hearing the voice outside the venue, old Yan frowned slightly. He looked back at Su Chen, but did not stop him, but cast his eyes on Cheng Xianxin again. After receiving Su Chen's guidance, Cheng Xianxin's face suddenly reappeared with confidence. He recognized Su Chen as his big brother, and that was not a casual recognition. At the beginning, Cheng Xianxin was shocked by Su Chen's explanation of the Qiang Confengxing formation. He immediately bowed his head and even wanted to worship Su Chen as his teacher. However, he was rejected again and again by Su Chen. Cheng Xianxin was as persistent as a dog skin plaster, and finally worshipped Su Chen as his elder brother. Later, whenever Cheng Xianxin had free time, he would pester Su Chen to ask questions. Su Chen saw that he really loved the art of formation, and was also willing to give him some pointers. One of them was willing to learn, and the other was willing to teach, and Cheng Xianxin gained a lot. At this time, Su Chen spoke and instantly pointed out the direction for Cheng Xianxin again. Shenlong, show me. Cheng Xianxin roared, and arranged the dragon painting formation again. However, this time there was a slight change. The Shenlong condensed by the formation was still the Shenlong. However, the Shenlong at this time was less fierce and arrogant, but more majestic. Yang Maohe raised his eyebrows slightly. There was a bit of surprise in his eyes. The dragon in front of him seemed to be the same one just now, but it gave people a different feeling. Before, the Shenlong was also very imposing. If facing an ordinary master of formation, the might of the dragon can easily suppress him. But Yan Maohe knew that the previous dragon was flashy and superficial. It was as if the dragon deliberately put on a majestic attitude, but it was not like that. But this one is completely different. The dragon is still majestic. However, this is a kind of majesty without anger. It is even similar to Yan Maohe's Akala Bodhisattva. At this moment, Yan Maohe's expression finally became serious. At this moment, Cheng Xianxin spoke again. Point the eyes. The magic formula in his hand changed, and the dragon was more majestic than before. Even, it felt vivid. In an instant, everyone breathed rapidly. Dragon. This is the real dragon. It appeared right in front of them. The dragon flew into the sky, showing its majesty, as if it had spanned endless years. Su Chen nodded slightly. Sure enough, it was much better after the improvement. In the arena, Yan Maohe's face was more solemn than before. You are a level 5 formation master? Yang Maohe asked with some appreciation. Of course. Cheng Xianxin said with a hint of pride on his face. Yang Maohe praised. Not bad. At such a young age, you are already a level 5 formation master. You are not bad either. Cheng Xianxin smiled playfully and started to behave unruly again. Yang Maohe said, 7th son of the Cheng family, I will give you a chance. You can worship me as your master. Worship you as my master? Cheng Xianxin curled his lips and said lightly, are you worthy? You. Old Yan's face sank slightly. A trace of anger emerged in his heart. Since he has mastered the art of formation, has he ever been despised like this? As Yan Maohe got angry, the entire Akira Dharma King became even more angry. You are so rude. Let me see how much weight you have. Yang Maohe snorted coldly. Cheng Xianxin regained his confidence and was naturally not afraid. Let me know if you are worthy. As soon as the voice fell, he urged the dragon condensed by the formation to rush towards Yan Maohe. Roar. For a moment, the shadow of the dragon and the Akala fought again. The dragon was walking in the sky, with its scales and claws flying. The angry Vajra, the pestle was flying furiously. The collisions again and again made the two people's formations shake constantly. Qing Xianzhen and Yan Maohe had serious expressions, and they exerted their mental strength to the fullest. While maintaining the crazy operation of the formation, they fought tit for tat. The two camps stared at the field closely. At this time, a puzzled voice came from Su Chen's ear. Mr. Su, didn't Mr. Chen Qi help to arrange the 8th level formation? How come he is only a 5th level formation master? Su Chen turned his head and saw Zhang Longhu with a curious look on his face. Others also looked curiously. Su Chen smiled and said, Master Zhang, do you think that you can arrange a certain level of formation, and you are a certain level of formation master, isn't it? On the side, the curious Meng Diqiu couldn't help but ask subconsciously. Of course not. Su Chen smiled and shook his head. The strength of a 5th level formation master is comparable to that of a god. Zhang Longhu and Meng Diqiu were getting more and more confused. Su Chen continued to explain, being able to set up an 8th level formation does not mean that you are already an 8th level formation master. The two are not the same. The level of a formation master is not calculated based on the formations that can be set up, but the highest level formation that can be formed instantly. Su Chen finished speaking and pointed to the field and said, like Zhou Qi, his formation is a 5th level attack formation. You also saw that Zhou Qi set up this formation in an instant without any preparation in advance. This is the highest level formation that Zhou Qi can set up instantly, so he is a formation master of this level. Zhang Longhu suddenly realized. Second update. Chapter 800 Brother, save me. Then, Zhang Longhu asked again in confusion, Mr. Su, then doesn't it mean that no matter how high the level of the formation can be arranged, it is useless, and we can only look at the level of the formation that is formed in an instant? Of course not. Su Chen smiled and shook his head. Being able to arrange a high level formation is still very useful. For example, if you are prepared, arranging a high level formation can be used as a trap to lure the enemy into the formation. What's more, the higher the level of the formation that can be arranged, the greater the potential of the formation master and the higher the future achievement. Like Zhou Qi, he can arrange an 8th level formation, so his potential in the future may be an 8th level formation master. Hiss. Hearing this, Zhang Longhu and Meng Diqiu took a breath of cold air. A 5th level formation master is equivalent to the middle stage of the divine realm, and a 6th level formation master is equivalent to the late stage of the divine realm. In this way, the 7th and 8th levels. Seeing the expressions of the two, Su Chen couldn't help but smile. He continued, don't think too much. It's very difficult for a formation master to advance. If the mental power is not strong enough, it is unlikely that you can set up a 7th level or 8th level formation, let alone form a formation in an instant. Moreover, the formation is not completely unbreakable. Feng Shui formations require the power of mountains, rivers, and streams. What if the mountains, rivers, and streams are destroyed? When fighting against a formation master, as long as you take the initiative and don't give him a chance to attack, there is hope to defeat a 6th level formation master in the early stage of the god realm. The two were shocked. However, thinking of that possibility, the two couldn't help but shake their heads secretly. The formation master is not a fool. Will he give you a chance to attack? Uncle, since you said that, why didn't the Qian Kunfeng crossing array we set up have much power? Zhang Tian also interrupted and asked. Really not much power. Su Chen looked at Zhang Tian with a smile. Zhang Tian didn't say anything. Su Chen continued to ask, what is the main function of the Qian Kunfeng crossing array? To cover up the secrets of heaven. Zhang Tian answered subconsciously. After answering, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he suddenly understood. Yes, the formation is different. Zhang Tian instantly thought of the nameless formation in Chang'an Mountain. That formation probably doesn't have much attack power, otherwise, they wouldn't be able to survive at all. If you wait for the enemy to tire, the formation master can really fight 1 against 100. That's why the formation master is respected. Su Chen said. Hearing this, Zhang Longhu and Meng Diqiu nodded in unison. As long as they don't fall into the trap of the formation master is not a big threat to them. the level of ordinary formation masters is not too high. And those who can reach the level of a 5th level formation master can't just attack them casually. Su Chen suddenly spoke again. That being said, you can't be careless either. He thought that he had a 6th level formation plate on him. He continued, although there are not many level 5 and 6 formation masters, the formation discs are in circulation. If you use the formation disc to start the formation, you can also set up the formation in an instant. Of course, you don't need to worry too much. Although the formation disc is in circulation, it is very valuable, and not something that ordinary formation masters can get. The reason why Su Chen explained so patiently, in addition to satisfying the curiosity of the two, is also to clear up the confusion of Qin Mei, who was hiding in the dark. Qin Mei just started to learn about the formation in Changjiang Mountain. With the help of others, she can indeed set up some ordinary small formations of level 2 or 3. Su Chen was worried that she would think that she was already a formation master, and she would be ignorant of the world and fight with other formation masters, which would be a big trouble. While the few people were talking, in the center of the battlefield, the battle between Cheng Xianzhen and Yan Maohua became more and more intense. On one side, the dragon swung its tail. On the other side, the King Khan glared. The dragon and the Bodhisattva were fighting fiercely. With Su Chen's guidance, Cheng Xianzhen's finishing touch formation eliminated many flashy places, and the dragon that appeared was 20% stronger than before. However, Yan Maohua's attainments in formation were much higher than Cheng Xianzhen. The akala that his formation showed was really like an eternal Buddha, extremely fierce. Bang! After countless collisions, Cheng Xianzhen was finally weaker. His mental strength could not continue to support it. Crack. After a crisp sound, the dragon soaring in the sky was instantly broken into pieces. The heavy and majestic power of the formation immediately scattered around. The people around were pushed back again and again, with shocked faces. When this formation collapsed, it had such great power. If it attacked me during the period of full victory, I'm afraid that few people present would have the confidence to survive. Fortunately, we have old Yan here. For a time, countless strong men in the Liu family camp had this thought in their hearts. Puff. Cheng Xianzhen spit out a mouthful of old blood and flew out. His face was as pale as gold paper, and he looked at Yan Maohua in shock. Cheng Xianzhen didn't expect that after he improved on the spot under Su Chen's guidance, he would still lose to this old guy. Moreover, he was backfired by the formation. Although the formation master is strong, if the formation is broken, the backlash is also extremely huge. This time, Cheng Xianzhen suffered a big loss. Old Yan looked at Cheng Xianzhen coldly and snorted, "Boy, am I worthy of being your master now?" It seems that he still has a grudge against what Cheng Xianzhen said before. Although Cheng Xianzhen lost, he was not discouraged. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, Old man, you're Chenki, I fought with you for such a long time, and you accidentally got hurt. Your level is not even 1/10 of my eldest brother's, and you still want to be my master? Go home and study for a few more years." Cheng Xianzhen's mouth was still very mean. Yang Maohua's face turned black. He said coldly, "Good boy. I give you face, but you don't want it. Today, I will teach you how to be a man." As soon as the voice fell, Yan Maohua was about to activate the power of the formation again, and went to cover Cheng Xianzhen. Suddenly, a trace of panic flashed in Cheng Xianzhen's eyes. Damn. He was just busy with his mouth. He forgot that he had been backlashed, and temporarily lost his ability to resist. This time, he is doomed. Cheng Xianzhen turned around and shouted, "Brother, save me. This old guy has no martial ethics," and attacked the wounded. The third update. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.